big bass situation.
Spurling. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas, an advocate for black men, largely because I am a black man. I'm a black father, I have black sons. Hey man, I do what I do.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the broadcast. Shout out to everybody who is here with me today. I want to make sure I give a big acknowledgement to all my friends and family and subscribers who've been here for years. As you guys know, I have surpassed the 100K mark. Somebody type 100K in the chat room. I've surpassed the 100K mark with no gimmicks, no frills, no thrills, none of that. Okay, none of that, none of the shenanigans. You haven't seen me out here beefing with anybody on the internet, causing trouble. You don't see me doing any calling people racial epithets and recording it and putting it on my channel. I don't do any of that. For the most part, the only thing you see me do is give you the cold, hard facts, which is why they call me Uncle D, the Blizzard King, baby, because I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. And today, family, I'm going to have to deliver some hard truths. And some things you may agree with, some things you may not, some things you will want to hear, some things you want, some things may be expected, and some things are unexpected. But this is a very serious matter, and I want to give it its due diligence. And I also want to go ahead and try to roll through this, man. So anyway, I want to give again, shout out to all the people who've been here, man. I appreciate you guys. It's been a true blessing to have been here for the past, I think, 5 years. And hopefully, if you guys enjoy what I do and you learn something, or even if I just shock you and you like, damn, I didn't think of that, then, you know, if you learn, I should earn. That's my only requirement. Other than that, you don't owe me anything. But I do want to acknowledge everybody. Please let me know which channel you're watching me on. I have multiple channels now. Make sure if you haven't subscribed to my new channel, which is the Spurling Legacy channel, you can find it. Just Google Spurling, the Spurling Legacy. Make sure you go over there and subscribe to that channel, because this is the way I'm able to get the type of traction that I need, because I'm going to give you some information and I'm going to deliver this to you like no other person will, and like I always have. But again, as I always say, you know, welcome to the podcast. My name is Dennis Spurling, and today I'm going to be talking about the trial of Rick Chow and the killing of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack-Belton, a case that has the Black community in South Carolina and all across the country in an uproar. And this case started back in May 2023 when Cyrus, a young Black teenager, went to a convenience store in South Carolina, and Rick Chow, the store owner, believes Cyrus had stolen bottles of water. And the prosecutors later said that that accusation was just flat out wrong. But what happened next is what turned this from a store dispute into a national conversation about race, justice, guns, fear, and the value of a Black child's life. Now, Rick Chow's full name is Cheeky Rick Chow, and that is spelled Chikei, Rick Chow. He's 61 years old. He was originally born in Hong Kong, okay, Hong Kong, China, and his wife was born in Malaysia. They are both foreign immigrants who became United States citizens. Rick Chow and his son, Andy Chow, and Alice Chow, who is his wife name, are the owners and operators of a store, and they were also present during the incident. And Rick Chow and his son, Andy Chow, chased Cyrus out of the store and down the road. Cyrus was running away. He was then at some point shot in the back, and the prosecutors argued that this wasn't self-defense. They argue that you don't get to falsely accuse a 14-year-old child of stealing, chase him 130 yards while armed, and shoot him in the back with a Glock 45 caliber pistol, and then turn around and say you were defending yourself. We don't do that in America. Now, they told the jury that this was a senseless killing, and that started over mistaken belief about bottled water and ended with a child dead in the street. Now, the defense lawyers, including Jack Spurling, Sean Kent, Joe McCullough, and Patrick Wright, and others, told a completely different story. They argued that the 14-year-old Cyrus had a Taurus 9mm pistol, okay? And the child fired because he believed his son was in danger. They said that this wasn't about water. They said this wasn't about anger. They said this was about a father protecting his son in a dangerous moment, and that became the heart of the trial. Was Rick Chow an angry store owner who chased down and killed the child? Or was he a man who honestly believed his son was about to be shot? Now, Cyrus was found, or should I say that Taurus 9mm pistol was found near Cyrus's body, and that was reported by ABC. Reported, they said that the 9mm was found next to Carmack-Belton, and the prosecutor said it was in his possession during the chase, but had fallen to the ground at some point. Before the trial, the judge allowed the defense to introduce video of Cyrus, the young 14-year-old, with the gun from the night before the shooting, and the state prosecutors admitted that Cyrus was in unlawful possession of the 9mm handgun. So that was allowed in. The judge allowed it in. The judge, they had videotape of the young man with the pistol before it. That was a question that I had. Did he really have a gun? Because you never know. Now, Cyrus was running, and as he was running, trying to make his escape from the convenience store, he loses a shoe, and witnesses testified that they didn't see anything in his hands. The prosecution's position was that the Taurus 9mm pistol fell during the chase, and Cyrus never pointed it at anyone. But the defense's entire case was built around the opposite claim, that Cyrus had a loaded pistol, pointed it at Andy Chow, and Rick Chow fired one shot because he believed his son was about to be shot. Now, understand, he was shot in the back. And so that brings up questions. How was he pointing it at your son and he was shot in the back? Look, the jury's already made the verdict. I'm just asking questions, okay? Now, after all that, again, the jury came back with the not guilty verdict. Rick Chow walked out the courtroom a free man. And for many people in the Black community, it felt like another message that when a Black child is killed, the system can always find a way to explain it, justify it, excuse it, or move on from it. Now, the family cried in the courtroom, as you can imagine, and the community leaders spoke out, and Black people are angry. We want to know, how does a 14-year-old Black boy end up dead after being chased for 130 yards over a suspected theft when he didn't steal anything, and then nobody is held criminally responsible? How does that happen? Now, here's the thing. Years before Cyrus Carmack-Belton was killed, Chow had two separate shooting incidents connected to Black people that he accused of stealing from his store. There was one that happened in 2015. And the allegations were that a Black woman left the store without paying for 2 cases of Bud Light and some boiled peanuts. Now, the reports say the child confronted this woman. There was a struggle outside the store. The Black woman allegedly threatened to shoot him. And then after she got into her car to leave, Chow pulled out that same 45 caliber Glock and fired at her approximately 6 times at the passenger side window. Think about that. She's got in her car. She's no longer a threat, and he busts 6 times at her car. Did you all know about that? If you were sitting on the jury, would that have swayed your belief? It would have certainly led to the fact that this is a pattern. Again, nobody was injured in that incident, and Chow wasn't charged because the authorities said, these same South Carolina authorities said, that his conduct didn't support criminal charges under South Carolina law, I guess. Now, let's move forward to 2018. There was another incident involving a shooting. And this time the allegations was a black man had concealed, get this, $6.49 worth of oven cleaner in his clothing. I guess he had, maybe it was some stains. He was cooking some, some biscuits or something like that. He needed his oven cleaner real bad. I don't know. Nevertheless, Chow confronted him about this $6.49 can of oven cleaner. And the reports say that the man assaulted Chow during the confrontation. Somebody typed confrontation in the chat room, and Chow shot the man twice in the leg. So if somebody hits you and then you shoot him twice in the leg, where we do that at? When do we get a chance to escalate from a one-on-one boxing match to just pulling out that pew-pew and popping people? Do we do that in America? Again, Chow wasn't charged. And the police treated that situation as self-defense. And the person who was shot later pled guilty to charges. So they charged him connected with the incident. But the most important thing you need to understand is that Rick Chow had history. Chow had already used the gun in shoplifting related confrontations before Cyrus was ever killed. But see, here's the thing. The judge that sat in this most recent trial, the defense filed what is called a motion to suppress that evidence about Chow's prior contact with law enforcement. And so the jury never heard that related to this 2023 shooting. They didn't get the full public history. That this man, and I ain't even talked to y'all about all the different incidents, the wrestling matches he's had in his store. But again, that full history probably would have shown that this man has a pattern as a store owner of escalating minor suspected shoplifting situations with firearms. Now, the defense lawyers were able to focus, they were able to keep the focus on Cyrus having a gun. The 14-year-old had a gun. The 14-year-old had a gun. And then they also were able to focus on Andy Chow, the son's testimony that Cyrus allegedly pointed the gun. Again, they have an old saying, dead men tell no tales. The only person that's saying that Andy had a gun was, that Cyrus had a gun was Andy Chow. But guess what? Cyrus is not here to tell his side of the story, is he? So will we really know? And the community is reacting to the feeling that the jury saw a smaller version of the case in the public that the public sees now. Unfortunately, that's how it always is. And a lot of black people feel like the system protected Rick Chow from his own history, while Cyrus Carmack-Belton's entire life got reduced to one question. Did this 14-year-old have a gun? Now, see, I need y'all to understand something, because a lot of people don't truly understand the foundational Black American experience. I want somebody to type FBA in the chat room. Somebody type FBA in the chat room. Our history is different. Our history is unique. Our culture is different. When you tell somebody whose family is from Detroit or Chicago or Los Angeles or Oakland, something happened, something racial happened in South Carolina. Hell, if you tell somebody in Houston something racial happened in South Carolina, they'll say, yeah, that figures. Yep, that's about right. So you need to understand where this happened. This happened on Park Lane Road in Columbia, South Carolina. It's in Dentsville, and that's in northeast Columbia area of Richland County. In that particular county, Black people make up 2/3 of the population or more. What I need you to understand, and my cousin lives in South Carolina, Dentsville sits and right over there near Columbia, actually. So Dentsville sits inside the old South Carolina Midlands. And this region was deeply shaped by slavery and plantation culture and forced black labor, and then later Reconstruction, violence, and Jim Crow and racial control. Richland County was part of the plantation world. The Goodwill Plantation, the Kenningson Plantation in Lower Richland was a massive plantation with thousands of enslaved black people who were forced to work and cultivate cotton and rice in this region. It was built by enslaved black peoples, torture, labor, crimes against humanity, generational grape. Our ancestors, our foundational black ancestors, cleared the land. They planted cotton, they planted rice, they dug the canals, they dealt with the malaria, they worked in the fields. They worked in homes, they raised white folk children, they raised their own children. They did all of that under bondage. They buried family members there in that soil they didn't own. And they created communities under conditions of force. And these enslaved black people in South Carolina, these Midlands, they were not passive people. They resisted. Somebody type resisted in the chat room. In 1816, in this same Midland region, there was what was called a slave conspiracy. At that time, enslaved black men reportedly, they had planned to rise up on the 4th of July of 1816 and steal weapons at an unguarded arsenal and attack and kill their oppressors. Now, the plot was betrayed before it could happen. 7 of these men were convicted, and on July 15th, they were hung. But they plotted because they wanted their freedom. And the white response was not, oh, freedom for all, liberty and justice. It was death. It was public punishment to exhibit fear and exact more control. And then when we roll around to the Civil War, after it ended, slavery was legally abolished. But most of the black people who were from that area, who were enslaved in that area, they stayed in those same counties and the surrounding areas because that's where their families were. That's where their churches were. That's where their ancestors were buried. That's where everything they had known in the world existed. They were tenant farmers. They were sharecroppers. They had developed houses and schools and churches. But as you all know, just from those of you all who listen to this channel, white folk didn't just accept that. The white power structure didn't accept black freedom like that. It responded with black oppression and black codes and forced labor and political terror. During Reconstruction in 1876, there was an election during that season. And there was a wave of what we'll call civil disturbances, but more likely was racial terror tied to the white folks who were Democrats and what they called the red shirt paramilitary groups. These were white racists. They were trying to overthrow the black political power and the Republican Reconstruction government that had been put in place by the Union Army. Because remember, the Union soldiers were still there. And so they had these armed white men who favored wearing red shirts, and they used fear and threats and beatings and violence to stop black people from voting and organizing and holding political power or even trying to act like an equal after slavery was over. There was a famous massacre. It was called the Hamburg Massacre in July 1867. Hamburg was a town that came about after it was a black Reconstruction town. It was a place where formerly enslaved black people were trying to live as free, organized, politically organized people where they try to protect themselves and exist as citizens after slavery. On July 4th, again, ain't that something? The 4th of July. A lot of stuff happens on the 4th of July. It's the day white folk oftentimes decide to reassert themselves. But on the 4th of July, 1876, a black militia company, in other words, armed black men led by a gentleman named Doc Adams, decided to march through town. Okay? Now, Doc Adams was the black commander of the Hamburg militia, Company in Aiken County, South Carolina. Hamburg was a majority black Reconstruction town. It was right across from the Savannah River, in near Augusta, Georgia. Think about the symbolism of that. I want you to picture this. You have formerly enslaved black men wearing uniforms, carrying weapons, marching in public on the 4th of July, celebrating American freedom in a town. It was like a parade, right? In a town where black people were trying to live and be free. And that sight just enraged white men who believed black people had no right to stand up like citizens. In other words, they believed that black people had no right to defend themselves or even pretend to defend themselves. I want you to remember that concept. Nevertheless, you had two white men, one named Thomas Butler and another one named Henry Gitson. Now, as the parade was going on, these two white men demanded to cut through the militia formation, basically just walk all through it. And guess what that led? That just was an excuse for a confrontation. So you got all these black men with guns marching in formation in what is basically a parade. And you got two white men who just want to cut through. They want to just pass on the road. But you know, the real issue was that you had armed black men organized, black men voting, politically active black men. And that scared the hell out of the white power structure. So anyway, a few days later, by July 8th, 1876, you had more than 100 armed white men came to Hamburg. And these weren't people trying to calm things down. These were white supremacist political terrorists. And they surrounded the black militia members. They demanded their weapons. They wanted to humiliate them. They wanted them to surrender. They wanted to send a message that black men couldn't organize, were not allowed to defend themselves, and couldn't march, couldn't vote, and couldn't act like equal citizens in South Carolina. And a fight ensued. The black militia members took cover. They were outnumbered. The white mob brought overwhelming force, and the situation turned into a slaughter. After the Hamburg massacre, 94 white men were indicted for murder. 94 white men. Can you imagine that? 94 white men were indicted for murder. And among those names were some very powerful white men who were not treated like criminals. They were treated like respectable citizens afterward. They weren't put in handcuffs. This is the area that this situation happened in. Somebody type FBA in the chat room. One of the gentlemen, his name was Matthew Calbraith Butler. He was a former Confederate general and a lawyer. Now, during the Hamburg confrontation, he showed up as a private lawyer to represent the angry group of white men and stood out there and demanded that the militia disband and turn over their weapons. Now, I want you to understand something. Matthew Butler had no lawful authority to command anybody, especially the black militia, to surrender their guns to him personally. He was a private citizen. But yet he stood in front of this white mob and demanded the black militia to disarm themselves. And he was indicted. But he wasn't punished for murder. Actually, he went on to become the United States Senator for South Carolina from 1877 to 1895. Think about that. And that's the point. Even today, South Carolina still honors this man inside the State House. In the Senate gallery, there's a portrait of Matthew C. Butler honoring him as a South Carolina House member, a United States Senator from 1876 to 1897, and a Confederate general, and later a major in the United States Army during the war against Spain. So he wasn't punished, he was upgraded. Now here's another one for you. You got Benjamin Ryan Tillman, Pitchfork Ben. Somebody type Pitchfork Ben in the chat room. This man was openly racist, violent white supremacist, a politician, one of the most violent, open racist white supremacists in South Carolina history. He became the governor. Think about that. This man became the governor of South Carolina from 1890 to 1894, and then went on to become a senator in the United States Senate from 1895 to 1918. This Pitchfork Ben helped push the 1895 South Carolina Constitution that literally crushed black voting power for generations. And he wasn't the only one. These are the people who participated in this massacre. Another gentleman, A.P. Butler, another prominent white man in connection with this same incident. They identified Colonel A.P. Butler. He became a South Carolina senator in Aiken County in 1877. But see, the point is that this tells you exactly how this system worked. Black blood could be spilled in public, and the legal system still would look away. So when black people in South Carolina talk about distrust of courts and prosecutors and law enforcement and jury verdicts, that leave black families with no justice. This is part of what we're talking about. That law could see the crime, name the criminals, and still refuse to punish them. And that kind of history doesn't disappear. It gets passed down. It becomes memory. It becomes the feeling black people have when the system says, trust us. And history says, why would we? And see, that's the backdrop. That's why black people don't look at these cases like isolated courtroom events. When a black child is accused, chased, and shot in the back, and then the shooter walks free, black people aren't just reacting to one verdict. They're reacting with historical memory. They're reacting from a place where accusations against black people have always been dangerous and oftentimes false. And today, when a black child is accused of stealing water in a heavily black community and ends up dead, people hear echoes of the same old pattern. Black suspicion, black pursuit, black death, and then a legal system that finds a way to explain it away. And that's why the black community is outraged right now. That's why they're talking about boycotting Asian businesses. Now, I'm going to take the opportunity. There's plenty of videos out there, and I've selected a few videos because I want to take the opportunity to kind of let you all see what people are saying. Now, the first person I want you all to hear is well, there's plenty of people I want you to hear, but I want to take the opportunity to let you hear from his mother. This is his mama, and she does a great job of speaking on behalf of her family, and I don't think anybody would disagree that you know, this in itself is tragic for a parent. But for all of us to see. But I'm going to go ahead and let his mama speak. And you all please be respectful in the chat room. Let's and
to allow this person to terrorize this neighborhood. He shot him dead. Like as if he was a dog. And I do not understand how that jury can come back and say that he was not guilty. He was in a runner's stance. It was shown by the pathologist, and they said he was not guilty. It was devastating for me to get a call from Alvin S. Glenn letting me know that Rick Chow was released. That broke me more than you can ever imagine, because my murderer of my son was set free. And it's not fair, and it's unjust. And nobody can tell me that this is not racially motivated, because I'm not supposed to be on social media anyway, But when I go and I look at my social media, I have racist people coming to my page, going under my son's pictures, leaving the most horrific things, saying that they're glad he's dead, good riddance, and I am tired. I don't want this to happen to any other child. No black or brown child, you have to go through this. No parent should have to go through this. This has to stop today. And I just learned today that.
Now, you all are saying you can't hear the sound. Is that what you all are saying? You're going to have to turn up your listening devices. I can't turn the sound up. It's recorded at what it is. Okay. So I ask you all to turn up your listening devices so that I don't have to address this anymore. But this lady is, and first of all, let me point out something. This is not a young man who didn't have a mother and a father. That's his mother. Very well-spoken, highly educated black woman. And that's his father standing next to him. Okay, so he had a mother and a father who were involved in his life. And the lady who is to the left of the father, that's his grandmother. So this young man came from a loving family. He clearly has a very involved mother. And so, you know, a lot of the stereotypes that people would normally use to vilify the victim fall apart instantly. Not that there ever should be, we shouldn't be doing victim shaming. Now, I will say this. The young man had a gun. The prosecutor said he had a gun. The young man should not have had a gun. Now, I have 3 sons myself, and I've explained to them in no uncertain terms, if I ever, and this is when they were underage, if I ever catch them with any sort of firearm, and excuse my French, I'm gonna beat their ass. Okay? I've told them that. I'm going to beat their ass, and they can call their mamas and tell them I beat their ass. You can call the police. When the police show up, I'm going to beat your ass in front of the police. Then they can take me to jail, and when I get out of jail, I'm going to beat your ass again. And I might go back. Okay? But that drove home a point that you are not to be playing with guns. And unfortunately, we live in a society with parents who are like me, you know, big, bad, mean daddy, right? Who keep our children safe and out of jail and law-abiding citizens. And we're often vilified. Shout out to Understanding 15K. Thank you so much. But it serves a purpose when you're dealing with hard-headed children. And unfortunately, it's not always the parents' fault when they have hard-headed children. Somebody type hard-headed in the chat room. Somebody type hard-headed in the chat room. And I don't know anything about this little boy. He's 14 years old, but I have had 2 14-year-old boys, and I know how they go. And I've been 14 myself, and I know what happens at 14. Sometimes you get to, as they say, smelling your own urine. Have you ever heard that term? You get to smelling your urine. You think you know better and can do better, and you end up doing something that's silly. And I'm in no way am I saying that this young boy deserved to be murdered like he was. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is hard-headed. And sometimes when you make mistakes like that, and I've explained this to my sons as a young black boy, you oftentimes don't get a chance to make 2 mistakes. You get 1 mistake, and that's it. And that's just how unforgiving this world is to young black boys. Now, I'm going to let this beautiful sister continue to speak, all right? And she's going to continue speaking up on behalf of her family, and you can sense the outrage. I'm going to go ahead and let her play now.
South Carolina, if it's a murder charge, that they cannot bring in any of your prior acts. Rick Chow shot 2 people before. Rick Chow accosted a child in that store and beat her up with a gun on her hip. And none of that information could be brought to light. I do not think that is fair, and if that is on the law books, that needs to be changed. Because if that was not there, then my son would have gotten justice. And to allow this person to terrorize this neighborhood for 12, 13 years is ridiculous. And it's just showing that it's okay to treat black and brown people wrong, and it's not. My son loved everybody. He would tell me, like, oh, Mom, you're being judgmental. You shouldn't do that. That's against God. And the devil shot him dead, and he laid right there. And we got no justice from South Carolina. And I think it is disgusting, and I don't even know why. I have no words. But every day I will not be able to speak to my son, hear his voice change, see him grow, go to prom. He will never get married. I would never hold my grandchildren, nothing. But Chow is able to go home with his lion son, Andy Chow, and they're able to have dinner with the wife, Alice, who all three of them came out that store, and they chased my baby. And I think the entire family should be held accountable because it was racially profiled. Everybody.
All right, so I want to address some of the things that this beautiful lady said. Okay, now, earlier I explained to you all that Mr. Rick Chow had a history. Now, I don't know if he shot two people. We do know there's a record that he shot at least one person in the leg who he alleged had attempted to steal some oven cleaner. I spoke about that. Now, I know at least one, okay, but then and there's also allegations that he shot at a vehicle with a woman who said stole some beer and some boiled peanuts, okay? Now, none of that came in. Those are called prior bad acts. And the reason we don't let people's prior bad acts is because we don't want the jury to think that this person, just because they did it before, that they did it this time. At that point now, you have prejudiced the jury into believing that this person is guilty, not based on the evidences before you, but based on something that he might have did years before. So we don't do that. Okay. And if we did open that door up, then there'd be a lot more people in prison right now than are. If we said, well, he did it before, he must have done it again. There's no grounds for rehabilitation, and there's no room for rehabilitation. People will always be found guilty for their past crimes. And that's why we don't do that generally in the American justice system. I understand her passion. I understand where she's coming from. But that is something that we typically do away with. But that was an evidentiary call by the judge who suppressed that evidence. And whether you call it fair or not, I don't know. Sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not. But there's a lot of things on both sides. You typically can't bring up, for instance, in a grape case, there's a shield law that doesn't allow you to bring up a victim's sexual history. Now, she might have been a whole 304. She might have, but you can't bring that up. You see, so there's some things that are shielded from the jury, and we call it unfair. But balancing the equities, this is how the rules of evidence have played out over the years. I'm going to let the sister continue speaking, but that is probably not an evidentiary rule that anybody plans on changing. But we're going to continue.
Nothing that is right, and they all should be punished. And if I don't know what laws that we need to create to help our people, but it needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. Cyrus shouldn't be gone. None of our children should be gone from the acts of racism, from profiling, from any of that. He should be here. And until the world treats us like we are human beings, I mean, come on. Y'all hire us. Y'all want us around. You like our culture. You want to listen to the music. You want to wear our clothes. You want to do all of that stuff. But when it comes to protecting us, and when it comes to looking at our children, you look at us as if we are animals, and we are not. I am a college-educated woman. I hold a master's degree in information technology management. My son was not a thug. He was a 14-year-old boy who was trying to find his way. And for any person that acts like when they were 14, 15, 16, 17, that they did not do nothing wrong, that they did not smoke and drink and have sex and do whatever that they were not supposed to do by their parents, it is a lie. That's right. And it is judgmental, and I refuse to allow any of you to sit up there and make it seem like we were bad parents, because we were not.
Now, again, I'm not saying that she's a bad parent, but here's the thing. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, And at 14 years old, I was not drinking, I wasn't smoking, and I wasn't carrying a gun. I'm not saying that I didn't do my own stuff, but I wasn't doing those type of things. And I'm telling you, I grew up in the heart of gang violence, but I didn't do those things. I grew up in South Central LA when the crack epidemic and gang violence was its height. So we can't put that on all children. And I'm not saying this woman's a bad child. I know that my sons hadn't been doing it. I know that. Okay. And I'm not judging this woman on her parenting, but don't put us all in that. We are not all of us weren't doing that. You see, your child apparently had some issues. You said he was a young man trying to find his way. And I don't want it to make it seem like I'm definitely not attacking the woman, but see, we don't want to, I know she's hurting and this is a mother speaking, but I don't want to cast this net too wide. All of our children are not out there cutting up and acting a fool. And they're certainly not out there packing 9mm and whatnot. This is not happening. And I know this woman is hurting. I clearly see she's hurting. I cannot imagine what it would be like to lose my son. She voiced the fact that, you know, she won't be able to hold her grandchildren. She won't see her son go to the prom. I get that. Trust me, I understand that. No parent should ever have to bury their child. But we can't cast that net so wide and impugn the character of all of our children and all of the parents. And I'm not saying that you are a bad parent. I'm not saying that any folk who have children, wayward children, are bad parent. The Bible speaks about that. We all have that prodigal son. Okay, we read that story about that prodigal son. Some of us were the prodigal son. Okay, and at no point am I saying this young man deserved to be shot in the back. But what I am saying, we're not going to throw all of our children under the bus. Period. Especially black children. We are not, all of our black children are not out there cutting up like that. Our children are well behaved. They're doing well. It's a very tiny percentage of black boys in the black community and black girls in the black community doing most of this dirt. We're not going to throw all of our kids out there, but I'm going to go ahead and let the lady continue with this passionate delivery because it's necessary.
All of our children make mistakes, but I don't see anybody saying, oh, well, you know what? My kid did X, Y, and Z. My kid did X, Y, and Z. No, they're coming onto my page and try to demonize my child, and I will not have it. And it stops today. Keep your opinions to yourself. And until you are in my shoes and you have to bury a child, I don't want to hear nothing from you.
Yeah. Well, we hope, and this is the father, he's about to speak. But we hope that nobody has to bury any more children. Nobody wants that. Okay, but if you're gonna speak on the internet, people are gonna comment. If you're gonna have an open social media post, people are going to comment. It's unfortunate. It's a mean, nasty, harsh world that we have out here. And people are going to say mean, nasty things. I hope at some point when this is over with, the family can find some sort of meaningful closure. I do know that there is a civil lawsuit pending against Mr. Chow and his family and his business. And I hope that, you know, family gets at least some, there's some sort of punishment. Now, another interesting development in this case is that there was a black lawyer involved in this case. His name is Sean Kent. Now, I do know a little bit about him. He went to college. He's a South Carolina native, and he went to college in South Carolina. And then he actually went to a law school in Michigan. And so this brother did a dynamic job. And I think all of the legal community, this black lawyer, did an amazing job at defending Rick Chow. Now, unfortunately, because of this, he's got a lot of backlash. Now, he has video he put out. I personally wouldn't have put the video out myself. To be honest with you, I would have remained quiet. You see, it's really not a whole lot more you can say. Your work spoke for you. But the brother felt compelled to speak. And so what I'm going to do is present you all with an opportunity to hear this black man. This is the black man who, one of the 4 lawyers, he's the only black one who represented Rick Chow. And some of you all know his speech. And what I will do is, actually, before I let display. I'm going to let you hear this man in action, and it speaks for himself. I mean, the idea that you can get an acquittal for a client.
This evil human being over here killed a man over.
This was his third shooting. The jury didn't get to know.
The idea that this man could get an acquittal for his client who, shot a person in the back while running away. That lets you know he's a really good attorney. But I'm going to let the brother speak for himself. You all pay attention, and I'll do some comment.
The world knows about. And a lot of folks. So I just got done defending a pretty high-profile case that I think most of the world knows about. And a lot of folks have been asking a lot of questions, and usually I don't talk about the cases, but in this situation, given the negative attention and the vitriol and the racist threats and the death messages that myself and my family, I thought I'd address some things. And one of the biggest ones people have asked me is, why would you take on this representation? Now, first, I've been practicing law for over 25 years. Here recently and shortly, and actually throughout that entire time, I've represented 3 African-American males who are accused of raping a little white girl. I have represented an individual who was accused of killing a person, folding his body and sticking him in an abandoned building in Florence, South Carolina.
Damn.
I represented a young lady who was accused of killing and drowning her newborn baby. I have represented countless individuals who have been accused of criminal sexual conduct, countless individuals who have been accused of child pornography. Represent an individual in Florence who was accused of murder, killing his rival along with his wife, who was also in the car. So there have been countless individuals who I've represented in the past, and so when someone says, why did you take this case? I don't judge. God judges.
Now, again, some of you all don't realize that this man obviously is a very good lawyer, and some of you all are under the presumption that the jury was biased. And so, and the presumption is that, it must have been an all-white jury or something like that. But that's just not the case. This jury was representative of the local area. You had 3 black jurors, okay? You had black jurors, you had 3 men and 2 women. So 5 of the jury, shout out to Black Sand 638, 5 of the jurors were black. 3 men, 2 black women. You understand? 5 of them. 2 of the jurors were white men. You only had 2 white men on the jury. You had 3 white women. And the other was apparently they called themselves unknown. But you had 5. The majority of the jury was non-black. So are you saying that these non-black jurors were racist already? Is that what in South Carolina? See, at this point, you just have to give this black man credit for his excellence. The brother told you he defended somebody who chopped up somebody and put them in a suitcase. That's a horrible case to take, but he took it. This is black excellence, whether you like it or not. And, you can make as many excuses as you want, but the man got the result for his client. So you need somebody like this for Carmelo Anthony. That's what you need. That's what you need. That young man who's up there in Dallas, who ended up with an all-white jury. We'll talk about that another time. But this is the type of black excellence that you need. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but we have a problem vilifying black men especially, but especially black excellence. This man is excellent at what he does. I'm going to let the brother finish speaking.
Judges, if you pick and choose who are you going to judge in your cases, it makes you ineffective of what you're doing. And so people say, why this case? Well, why not any of those ones with the outrage that has come forth? criminal defense attorneys, we represent the Constitution, we represent individuals. And so when people say comments to me, and I've heard a lot of them like, you didn't have to take this one. Well, I don't have to pay my mortgage either, but if you don't, they end up taking that from you. When the individual came to me and requested representation, that's the second thing. Oh, you're just a token. You were just put on the team because you're black. I'm pretty fucking good at what I do, and I find insult to that for someone who would just say the only reason somebody would ask me for representation is because I'm black. If you check and see the things that I do, I am very damn good at what I do, and I'm a very good lawyer. And I will not apologize for being somebody when someone needs, they contact and want a good lawyer. And the assumption is,
now, brother, be honest with you. If all the other jurors, all the other lawyers were white and you had a mixed jury like you do, they probably would want to have a really good black lawyer there to speak, okay, to connect with the black jurors, because they're going to say, you got all these, got this Asian man who shot this black boy, and they don't even, so they already just assume that, you know, their racial biases, the jury doesn't leave their racial biases at the door, and that includes black and white. So there is some, in my opinion, there is some credence to the fact that you were made part of the team, not only because you're good, but also because you're black. So let's be fair about that. That's what I'm gonna say. And but we'll let the brother finish speaking. So there is some truth. It's just like the reason that they got Johnny Cochran for the OJ trial. We know Johnny Cochran was excellent in what he did, but he was also black. Okay, you had Barry Sheck, you had Kardashian, you had all these other people, the Dream Team. Okay, but they included Johnny because Johnny was black. All right, let's keep listening to the brother.
which I hate when someone says they want the best lawyer. By saying that, you're saying the best lawyer can't be African American. That's disappointing on our parts. As far as the legal defense, when a person comes to us and says the following sentence, look, a gun was pointed at my son. I thought he was going to die, so I fired and shot. That was the legal defense. There was nothing creative. There was nothing tricky. There was nothing fancy. That was the legal defense. Nothing was hidden. I don't want people to say there was all this great stuff. That was the legal defense.
Yeah.
This was presented to a jury of 12 individuals, 7 of which were minorities, who heard that legal defense and said, yeah, that makes sense. I didn't create those facts. I'm also hearing, finally, probably most importantly, that there is that people are saying we need to boycott Sean Kent. I'm not fucking Target. I'm not TJ Maxx. You're going to boycott me, and then someone says we're going to boycott him and we're going to take our problem to a white lawyer. Okay, yeah, that'll show me that we don't need him. Well, enjoy jail, enjoy prison, boycott me if you will, but I will constantly and always fight for what's right.
Yeah, black people, if you boycott this lawyer, he's gonna have a bunch of white people begging him to represent him. Okay. So I mean, the idea that you would boycott an excellent black defense lawyer, shout out to everybody who's been involved in the who's been prosecuted for anything. Do you know how hard it is to find a very good black criminal defense lawyer in the United States of America? I know some of you all might think, oh, well, I'm talking about excellent. Somebody who can deal with the high profile cases, who can get the work done and be effective. Nobody's going to boycott this man. This man just increased his profile 100%. And in addition to that, anybody who has top dollar is going to seek him out and make him part of their legal defense team. I'm just pointing it out. Okay. I just want to point that out to you all, that, this is what they want. Just because now I wouldn't have done a Instagram or TikTok. Apparently this is a TikTok. I wouldn't have done a TikTok on the thing. I definitely wouldn't have done that. But I would have just let it be what it is, period. I would have just let my work speak for itself. He didn't have to come on social media. And the thing is, you know, this I feel this is actually doing him a disservice. He doesn't have to explain himself. He did his job. His work speaks for himself. But we'll let the brother finish speaking.
People sending the messages, and there've been some there have been some creative messages. I guess the number one is that you have no eyebrows and stuff like that, which I know is true. So there have been some very creative messages, but there have also been some insulting ones, and there's been a lot of people who have requested phone calls, and I've talked to them. If somebody sends me a message and it's nice and polite and say, I just disagree with what you do, I've picked up the phone and I've talked to them, because I do think a system works better if you have an actual intelligent conversation. I do think there are problems with the way, and let me make this clear. The state of South Carolina did everything that they needed to do in this case. They tried their damnedest to present the case that they wanted to present. There's some very good lawyers in that office who I respect tremendously, and I know they're getting a lot of hate also, which I think is unfair, because they do what they have to do, as do we, and that's what makes the system work. If we do not fight for everybody equally, then the system fails and stops to work. I hate it, and I hate it for the young man's family. I hate it for Cyrus's family. I hate it that a young man died. I 100% do. Prosecutor said some stuff that there's a lot of things he is not going to be able to experience in his life, and I fucking hate it. I can't control that part. But I do. It saddens me. It saddens me that a young life has been snuffed out entirely too early, and I think, whether people believe it or not, the defendant would agree with that. He felt that he was in a situation that something had to be done, or his son would be dead now. That's his position. People disagree with it, but that's his position.
Now, you guys, my father was a defense lawyer, and he was a defense lawyer his whole life. He started off as a public defendant, and here in Houston, Texas, he dealt with a lot of appointments. This is back in the 1980s and the early 90s, when we were really, here in Houston, we were really sending people to death row. For you all who don't know the history of Texas, Texas sends more people to death row than any other state in the United States. And the vast majority of them come right out of Harris County, Texas. And so this is where my dad practiced defense law. Now, I remember as a young boy going down to his office at 1600 Smith. And I remember I kept asking him, hey, Dad, what do you do? I want to see what you did. And he said, you really want to see? And so he had some photographs that he had developed of a crime scene. Actually, the prosecutors had them, and basically it showed me a dead body of a man who had, this is 1980, I had to be like 10 years old, dead body, a man who'd been shot up and left on the side of his bed. Okay. And I wanted to see, so I saw. And it was at that point I realized I never wanted to practice criminal defense. I didn't want to have anything to do with the criminal practice of law, and which is why I decided that, if I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm either going to be an environmental lawyer or some sort of government lawyer that represents the environment. But things happen, and I end up working at a law firm that practiced personal injury, which is when you deal with car accidents and slip and falls and those sort of things. And for me, that is something that I can go home and sleep at night. I'm really good at what I do, but I don't have to deal with what this gentleman is dealing with. Now, you need to understand, it's still a lot of pressure, but it's more so, hey, I'm trying to get someone some money. I'm not dealing with somebody's death. I'm not dealing with a person who's allegedly unalive somebody or grape someone or some child. I don't want to deal with that. I just don't want to. And the other reason that I don't run for judge is because I don't want to have to sit there and sort out somebody's criminal activity and then be forced to put them in jail for the rest of their life, or find them convicted of a capital punishment style case, and now I have to sentence them to death. I just don't have the appetite for that, which is why I don't. And I know that I would be extreme with it. What I'm saying is that once you get found guilty in the court of Judge Dennis Spurling, you're going to probably get the maximum sentence. I don't care what it is. If the district attorney and the defense lawyer agree to 10 years and the maximum sentence is 25, I'm going to give you 25. If you get convicted of multiple convictions, I'm probably not going to allow you to serve consecutively. You will be, or I'm sorry, concurrently. You will be serving consecutively. If you got 10 for this, 5 for that, 20 for that, you probably gonna go to jail for 35 years, because that's just my mentality. I'm not gonna sit up here and parse it with you. I'm not gonna cut you any breaks. You're gonna go to jail forever. And so I already know myself well enough to know that I don't have a tolerance for the criminal practice of law, and that's why I don't run for judge. I probably could run for judge right here in the county where I live, and I'm pretty sure I would win. But I don't do that because I don't like the taste of the criminal practice of law. And I have a very short fuse for lawbreakers. You see, I believe in harsh punishment. I probably couldn't defend a criminal defendant because it's like, I don't like you. And fortunately for me, the people that I represent, people who are injured in car accidents and slip and falls, they're victims and they need somebody to help them. And it gives me an opportunity to protect them from bullies. And so I get a chance to bully the bullies. And that's why I don't practice criminal law. Some people think, oh, you practice. No, you just be happy that I don't practice criminal law. Be happy that I'm not a prosecutor. Be happy that people like me are not sitting on the bench, because you would never get out of prison. You would go forever. You see, and you would go quick. You see, so you need black men like this. You need lawyers like this who are actually compassionate and who do have a heart and who can sit up after the case is over and say, yeah, I feel for the family. I feel compassion for the family. It's an unfortunate situation. You do need people like this, because I'm not one of them. But I appreciate the brothers speaking, and we're going to go ahead and continue looking at some more videos, because I want to kind of continue laying the foundation for what happened. Again, as you can imagine, there's a lot of people who are out and about who are upset about the situation. And, the other thing is, I think I want to kind of bring up, this is the incident that happened with Chow. And I don't know how much of this I can demonstrate. But, take a look. Take a look at this. This is an incident that happened. Now, this is not, I'll explain to you guys. I showed you guys the 2015 issue, right? And we talked about the 2015 situation and the 2018 situation where he popped pew some people. But here's another one that he just in a wrestling match. Now let me know if you can hear the volume clearly. Okay, this is a wrestling match. Sure. Back up. Now, just so you all don't know, this is apparently Mr. Chow on the ground, about 60 years old. Now, I know there are other podcasters are saying that Mr. Chow, he's 60 years old, and you all are saying that his son pew-pewed the boy, because there's no way a 60-year-old man could run down a 14-year-old. But I want you all to watch this man fight it out with this teenager right here. You tell me, because he looks pretty damn vigorous to me. Okay. You got that eye. He got that 4.5 on his hip. You see that 4.5 right there in the back? Right on. He's with the white shirt with the 4.5. That 45 is with him. Look at that. Back up. And that's the son, apparently, with the red shorts on. No, I'm trying to stop. There you. Let go. That son apparently is trying to get him up off of him.
Tell the stop phone. 911.
Now I'm gonna tell you, anybody who's taken a self-defense class or who has had a concealed carry license class, they will tell you don't need to be out there wrestling anybody when you are armed. Okay, that's the no. Okay, because anything could happen to that firearm, and it might fall out. and hit the ground and discharge prematurely. Anything could happen. So you don't do that. This is irresponsible. This is a 60-year-old man out here fighting with some teenagers about something that they possibly allegedly took in a convenience store. We're not talking about somebody's life. This man has a history of violence. Somebody type history of violence in the chat room. This man has a history of violence. Okay, again, this is not the incident from 2015 where he allegedly pew-pewed his 45. This is not the 2018 incident where he allegedly pew-pewed a person in the leg for stealing some oven cleaner. This is a whole nother incident that happened to be caught on videotape. And he has no restraint. He is rolling and tussling on the ground with what appears to be an underage girl.
Back off. I told you I'm trying to get out. I told you to back off. You throw my charger down, girl. Where's my piece of my cord? Why are you pushing me? Why are you pushing me?
He got a stick. Look at him yelling. Look at him with the you see the firearm visibly on his hip right there, on his right hip. Think about that.
Why are you pushing me on my face? I'm trying to be a push right now.
And he's holding what appears to be a baton.
Why are you touching me? I'm not hitting you, sir. Move. Let's go. Look on me. Can you see y'all move? Because my phone back off. No, I was not. What about this?
And see that's not the only one. The man is out there. He's doing a lot. Here's another one. Let me see if I think this is another one here I want to let y'all take a look at. Well, actually, this is footage from the actual case from 2023. But I have another video I'm gonna let you all take a look at where other people are discussing this man's activity. I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick for you all to take a look at. But yeah, he has a history of violence. Okay, he has a history of violence. Basically, that's the woman. That's his wife's questioning this young man, Cyrus, saying that he has, he has water. He said, "I don't have any water on me." Okay, that's what he's saying. Now you see the son come. This is a customer at the front desk. This is a customer trying to pay and go, right? And you see the son coming from around the back. You see the father coming from around the back, grabbing what appears, I don't know what he's grabbing. And you kind of see Cyrus. You see him coming, so he take off running. And there they go. Daddy right behind him, 60-year-old dad right on his.
How much in the year 2023 does a bottle of water cost at 7441 Park Lane Road in Richland County at the Shell gas station operated by the Chow family? How much does one bottle of water cost?
I'm not sure.
Okay, 98 cents sound about right?
Yes,
Let's just round it up to $1. Dollar sound?
Now this is the son. He wasn't answering any questions straight. He didn't know anything. He didn't know if the guy was running at him. He didn't know how much water costs, anything like that. He just sitting up there. That's probably why the mother said, she alleged he was testifying falsely.
Yes, sir.
$1.
Think you took $1 worth of merchandise from the store?
I did think that, yes, sir.
And you were certain of it?
I believed he had taken it, yes, sir.
You strongly believed enough where you left your counter, you left the cash register and ran after it, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you were wrong.
And afterwards, I did learn he did not take any.
Indictment number 2023-GS40-07440. State of South Carolina, County of Richland versus Rick Chow. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Rick Chow, as to the charge of murder, not guilty. Fine number 302, foreperson, June the 1st, 2026. Madam Forelady, was this your verdict and the verdict of the entire jury?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Thank you. Was this your verdict? 257?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
It is, of course, that was a verdict, and this is another angle from inside the court. Now, if you look, he takes the water, he holds, and then he puts them all back. And again, you know, you got this little lady following you around the store, right? And she's right behind you. She could have looked in the glass refrigerator and saw that all the water was put back.
I don't got no water in my pocket, bro. I'll show you water.
And my man is looking around like, what's going on, right? You're going to leave him at the register to go run this dude down about some water. Just think about that. The son, Andy, is going to leave this guy at the register who's trying to pay to go run after this dude about some water. It lets me know that this is not the first time they've done this, and it seems to them it's something like a sport. This is just something that this is their drill. Dad grabs something and he's out the door right behind. This is what they do. Okay, so again, these people, this man and his son, clearly have a history of this activity, and I'm just gonna say what it seems to me. It's like a history of violence. I mean, it just how do you get around that? You know, it seems like this is not something they're not used to. Now, I'm gonna let you see another video. You guys, let me know if you can hear it clearly. I hope you guys can hear it clearly, but I hope the volume's high enough.
In the Rick Chow case, and I'm going to tell you why. The jury yesterday came back with a verdict of not guilty on murder in the Rick Chow case, and I am a criminal defense attorney, and I'm going to tell you why that was the correct verdict. Now, the jury, or the prosecution and the defense, agreed to only send the jury back with the charge of murder. Okay, they did not choose to go with involuntary or voluntary manslaughter, which are both eligible in South Carolina. There are not degrees of murder in South Carolina, so murder is the only charge, and this is the definition of murder in South Carolina. Murder is the killing of any person with malice aforethought, either express or implied. Now, malice can be formed in a second, but it's an intent to kill. Okay, in order to be found guilty of murder, you need to have that intent to kill, even if it's done in a second. Now, what the prosecution did not do here is prove an intent to kill. Okay, all they really did is prove an intent to protect his son. Okay, his son testified that he was threatened, he felt fear for his life, he thought he was going to get shot, he thought he was going to get killed, and that's what the jury hung their hat on. Additionally, the prosecutor attacking the son in the manner that he did made the son look like a victim in the courtroom, and that's what the jury hung their hat on. The prosecution failed to prove the malice, which is that
Well, she basically saying that questioning of Andy Chow, the way the prosecutor said, how much was it? Was it $1? Were you running away? The jury saw that. They saw him as apparently as a sympathetic person, okay, a sympathetic witness. And because of that sympathy that they had for him, when the prosecutor began badgering him, you know, my dad was just trying to protect me. Again, you be reminded that 5 of these juries were black people from South Carolina, and 2 other ones were undisclosed, which means they might have been mixed. They might have been some other group but 7 of these jurors were non-white. There was only 2 white men and 3 white women on the jury. So this is basically a predominant jury of black people with a couple of, I don't know, brown people or maybe mixed people on the jury. So this is not an all-white jury. And they determined that this man was not guilty. I'm just saying, shout out to Fuquan. Whether you like it or not, this is what the legal professionals are saying. Again, I don't practice in that area of law. I don't like it. I just don't like it. Okay, but we'll listen to what this lady has to say.
Intent to unalive somebody. Okay, what they could have proven is going to be voluntary manslaughter. They should have sent voluntary manslaughter back to the jury.
That's what they should have done.
Someone kills another person in the heat of passion without prior intent to kill. Obviously,
that's a lesser included charge, but apparently the prosecutors didn't do that.
The heat of the moment is the cheating spouse, right? The law recognizes that a sudden provocation can cause someone to act without the calm reflection that characterizes murder. For voluntary manslaughter to apply, several conditions must exist, must be adequate to the reasonable person to lose control, must happen before there's time for passion to cool, there can't be a significant gap between the provocation and the fatal act. Okay? That is where the prosecution messed up. The prosecution absolutely should have sent voluntary manslaughter back to the jury, and they would have come back with a guilty verdict on voluntary manslaughter. But in no way would they ever have come back on a guilty on the murder charge. And that is the prosecution's mistake. So, did the jury get it right? Yes. He was not guilty of murder. He was absolutely guilty of voluntary manslaughter. And that was a mistake made by the prosecution in their charging conference and their charging documents. So you can agree or disagree with me, but do you think if you were on the jury, would you have found him guilty of murder or would you have found him guilty of voluntary manslaughter? You let me know in the comments, but definitely not murder. Definitely.
All right, so you're hearing from defense attorneys saying what it is. They would know better than that lady is saying they got it right. But again, a lot of evidence was not allowed in. Okay, that's the other thing I want you to keep in mind. There was evidence that was not allowed into the case. Keep listening.
Chow! This evil human being over here killed a man over.
This was his 3rd shooting. The jury didn't get to know that, but I'm going to make sure that you know about the 2 previous shootings before Rick Chow was found not guilty for taking the life of 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack-Belton. 2015, a woman stole beer and peanuts. Chow says that she then threatened his life and then she got in a vehicle, so he shot at that vehicle 6 times. Now, thank goodness no one was hurt, but Chow was not charged. Investigators called it self-defense. The 2nd time was in 2018. A man stole oven cleaner. Chow says that man then assaulted him, so he shot him twice. No charges. Self-defense. The man who stole the oven cleaner, though, he was charged in connection with that case. And then we get to 2023.
I mean, don't y'all, I mean, he kind of free with the gun, right? I mean, what is this? I mean, I know we have intelligent people in here, and I'm going to share something with you all later on in this broadcast. Out of 45 million black people in America, I hope I'm not the first one that comes up with the most obvious solution. I'm just saying, I hope out of all 45 million black people, I'm including the Africans and all you intelligent Africans in Korea, all y'all, I see a very easy remedy for this situation. And I just don't understand, where is this black leadership? Where's Al Sharpton at? I don't know, where's Al Sharpton? Where's, name them, Toure, whatever they, why can't we rein this cowboy in? You see? Well, I mean, I have a solution. I think it's a very easy solution. This would have never happened had I been in the community of South Carolina. I just found out about this whole thing. I didn't even know anything about this case. But this is a very easy fix. I don't understand why y'all didn't just take his guns away. When you have somebody who doesn't play well with others, this man has a CDL. I mean, he has a concealed carry license. Why not just have his license revoked to carry that iron? Y'all didn't know you can do that? It's a very simple solution. Out of 45 million black people here in the United States, I'm way over here in Texas, and I can look at this case for less than 24 hours and say, no, you should have petitioned the South Carolina licensing board to have his concealed carry license revoked. Now, this would have been before the 2024 Constitution Amendment. But bottom line is that seems like a real simple answer. Am I the only one that came up with that idea? Please scour the internets. I want you to look through both Beyonce's internet and Al Gore's internet and tell me out of all these 45 million black people and all these podcasters, nobody thought of, hey, you know what? Let's just revoke his gun license. And then that way he won't have so much fire in him. Somebody type that fire. He won't have that much fire. You're not going to run 130 yards behind somebody with a taser and some bear spray, will you? No, you're going to cut that short if we take your gun away. But I'm going to talk about that more a little later. Okay, but that's the solution. Somebody type solution in the chat room. Somebody, and I got plenty of them. Because see, the thing about not holding yourself back and lying to people and telling them what they want to hear, because I don't do that on this page. That's why I have no frills and none of my videos have ever gone viral, but I got 100,000 people. And it's because I tell you the cold, hard truth. And the reason that I am the way I am, and I just think this sounds like a good idea to me, and I don't really care who I offend. And see, that's what comes with being a truth teller. You don't really care who you offend. Sometimes I offend myself. Some of the things that I say, it's horrible. Some of the things I can't believe I said that. But see, that's the problem. And we need more honest leadership. We need more honest minds in the black community. I'm never going to tell you what you want to hear. Just like I started off telling you that a 14-year-old should not have a 9mm pistol on him at no given point. And if any of mine did, I'd beat their ass, right? Yeah, because that's honesty. But I also told you that nobody should be running somebody down and shooting them in the back over a bottle of water. And this dude should have never had that iron. After incident number 1, the community should have came together and said, oh, no, Playboy, you got to get that gun. You a foreigner too from Hong Kong? And it's a whole lot more that would have happened. But again, we're gonna let the video finish playing.
That's when 14-year-old Cyrus went into a convenience store owned by Rick Chow. Chow said that he stole water. Surveillance video showed that he did not. Cyrus ran from that store, and he ran so hard during the 130-yard chase where Rick Chow was chasing him with a weapon and with his son,
that he ran out of his shoe.
Made you think the great Rick.
He ran out of his shoe. That's what she was going to end up saying. So again, that's what I'm saying. Okay, that's what I'm saying. He'd had his gun taken away from him. Somebody should have stepped in. The community. What I really think is, I think that the community in South Carolina, y'all let this young man down. Y'all let the whole community down. Y'all should have stepped in a long time ago. Here's another video.
You'll see here he grabs the 4 water bottles and puts all 4 back. And she's standing there doing what?
Now, I know there's a lot of static in the background, so what I'm going to do, I don't want to run y'all up out of here, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit, and we'll listen. She's basically just explaining. This is more the same video, just a different angle. The woman confronts him. She goes and looks and see if the water's still there, and now she's following through the. How many of you all have been followed through the store by an Asian merchant, right? And here's the son, Andy Chow. He looks like a big fella, right, with his hat turned to the back, and there's a customer in front of him. Customer be damned. He see this popping off, so he leaves the customer who's trying to close out his business, and they run him down. Now, here's another thing. Look at my man. My man is going to hit the corner, and here comes the son and the father, and they see him go, and they just take off. Boom. And the woman right behind him. Boom. My man is out of here. He's running so fast that he ran out of his shoe. Okay? Let's let this lady finish.
because number one, it shows all of the angles. Number two, I'm tired of the stupid comments of people. Oh, but he stole the water bottles. Oh, but he threatened them. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. In fact, his own surveillance footage shows that he blatantly lied to police, that he never stole anything, that from the moment he walked in, he was respectful. He put the backpack down. He didn't argue with anyone. And that she, on the other hand, his wife, harassed him the entire time. When he was walking towards the water bottles, she's standing over the
Look, let me tell you something. If I walk in the store and somebody start following me around, I'm gonna say, well, look, since you're here, why don't you get this, that, and that for me, and I'll meet you in the front. Or I'm gonna just leave. You don't stay places where you're being disrespected. Let me share something with you. Go where you're you don't go where you're disrespected like that. Okay, you don't go to places where you're treated like a criminal the minute you walk in. You leave. If you ever get in a situation where you're at a store and you purchased a bunch of products and somebody comes running out the store, chasing you down, and after you kindly and respectfully produce your receipt and you show them that you didn't steal any of their stuff, you then turn your basket around and you take that receipt and all those items and you return it at the customer service line and you let them know you want your money back. Because if they don't know how to treat you, you have to show them how you treat. You don't let this persist. This should have never gone on. They should have boycotted this store off top. This should have never gone on this long. Did you see him beating up that little girl and running her down and beating her up? There's another one where he popped somebody. This same cat right here. This had never gone on that long. You show them with your dollars. This is an escalating thing. He went from this to that to that. It just escalated. You keep letting these people get away with stuff, they're gonna keep getting away with stuff.
over the chips like this, monitoring him like he's a criminal. They then accuse him, even though the surveillance footage is 1, 2, 3, 4 water bottles being put back. She still followed him, still questioning him. The son now jumps in. And instead of him arguing with them, he said, I don't have anything here. He shakes his hoodie and he walks out the door. They followed him. All three, not just him and his son. And what breaks my heart, on top of the fact that he is not here to even speak on his behalf, the fact that he was shot while he was trying to get up from the floor after tripping, is the fact that no child should ever have to walk into a store and be taunted in this manner, followed throughout the store at 14 years of age. I just ask myself, what does that do to a person? How does that jack them up in their mind, in their soul, to think that you can't even walk into a store innocently? All of them deserve to be in jail. In the next video, I'll go into day 3.
So, you have a lot of people, not just in the Black community, who are, who see this and, maybe they're just doing it for clickbait. I don't know. Maybe they're sincere. Shout out to King Musa 44. But of course, Black folks are outraged. We're mad. We're trying to figure out who to be mad at. Folks are talking about boycott. Somebody type boycott in the chat room. Somebody type boycott in the chat room.
No, let me talk.
Look, we don't know if we mad at the sheriff, the district attorney. Listen to the brother speak. Listen.
Y'all talking with the wrong charge. They said, no, let me talk, because it's something on my mind. Y'all charged with the wrong charge. He said that instead of first degree, he should have got charged with second degree, right?
Ain't no second degree, bro. No second degree.
There's no degrees of murder in South Carolina. It's straight murder.
Right. So they should have allowed us to charge.
There's no second degree murder in South Carolina, according to what these legal professors. Basically, they have murder and they have manslaughter. That's what they're saying, apparently. Let's keep listening.
Hey, y'all pipe down. Okay? So there's no degree, so they didn't charge him with the wrong thing. They charged him with murder, which is what he should have been convicted of. Okay? I'm pissed off as much as anybody else because I made the arrest. It is our case. I'm not happy about it. What he did. Come on, lad.
Now, y'all should have arrested him before when he shot that woman's car 6 shots after she allegedly took some beer and some and some boiled peanuts, sir. I'm just gonna say that respectfully. Okay, you should have shot him when he shot the man in the leg 2 times. So you can't sit up here and say you upset. You should have been upset in 2015 and 2018. This is clearly a failure of law enforcement. Okay, clearly. Okay, this is a failure. You didn't even prosecute. You just determined it was. You matter of fact, you determined it was self-defense, and you charged the man who was shot. Who's to say that he took the damn oven cleaner for $6.49? You just taking Mr. Child's word on it. And so, you know, I don't want to hear about this gentleman right here. And we know the history of South Carolina. We went over that. Remember earlier when we went over the history of South Carolina? We went over that, right? I don't really want to hear that, but we'll let him keep talking.
Why wasn't this gas station shut down a long time ago? Recharge him.
He sold the gas station. It does not belong to him anymore. It has nothing.
Rick Chow sold the gas station. Y'all hear that? The gas station was sold. Okay? The gas station was sold. Listen to this. Where is he from? Who all was here earlier? He from China, his wife from Malaysia. The gas station was sold already. Okay?
What about his other businesses though?
Look, I'm just as pissed off as y'all are too, okay?
Somehow I don't believe the sheriff is as pissed off as everybody else. I think the sheriff, I refuse to believe the sheriff is as pissed off as everybody else. Now, unfortunately, well, you know what? Let me say this. There's a lot of Asian people who are saying some things that they recognize the injustice in what's going on, and I appreciate that. You got a lot of people who are speaking about this injustice. They recognize it as wrong, and I'm gonna let you listen to some of the Asian folk who have some choice words for Rick Chow, and because again, you know, Asians are as diverse as there's you can't put FBA and Jamaica and Caribbean and all those Africans and Ghana. You can't put us all in the same category, and these people are different too. But let's take a listen to what some Asian people are saying.
Stolen 100 water bottles, and he still wouldn't have deserved to be shot in the back. And the fact that that store owner was found not guilty, you can debate whether it was manslaughter or murder or whatever. It doesn't change the fact that that store owner has multiple shootings under his belt at other quote-unquote shoplifters. That man has clearly been itching to kill somebody, and he just got away with it. You don't chase someone 130 yards and shoot them in the back and then claim self-defense.
Clearly you do, baby. Clearly that's what he did, and apparently the jury believed him. So but I appreciate for your warm words. Thank you so much. And we'll see what else. Somebody shout out to Raymond Murphy. We'll see what some other people have to say. But I thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you so much. Maybe y'all should do a little of that Asian anti-black racism too.
Since I'm Asian, I guess I'll comment and give my 2 cents.
Appreciate it, sir.
Because it was an Asian family that shot a young black man, a kid. In the sense of trying to run a business, you have to be very protective of the establishment. But there comes a point where when someone enters the establishment, the customer has to identify what they're trying to get or what they're trying to purchase at that moment. And in the process of doing so, sometimes certain things can look suspicious. Depending on the skin color, if you move a certain way, it looks suspicious. If that kid was an Asian kid, the Asian family would have overlooked it, most definitely. The problem is because he was a black kid, he was already targeted in the establishment. He was almost to the point where they didn't want him inside the establishment. When you have money.
Now, basically, it's not just that he was an Asian kid. If he was a white kid also, because what we're dealing with is a case of anti-black racism, which caused these people to succumb to their bigotry and their racism. They assume this young boy did something he didn't even do. There's no proof other than what Andy Chow testified that the boy even pointed the gun at him. Okay, if the gun fell out sometime before, you know, there's no other witnesses. We have to ask ourselves, how credible is Mr. Chow, Andy Chow's testimony as to what happened? But the bottom line is, family, this is the situation that we're dealing with. You have anti-black racism in Asian culture. We see it happening in Africa. We see it happening in Jamaica. We see it happening right here in the United States. And so this is an issue that they have to deal with. And now it's causing for them to treat us differently than they. And this is an Asian man saying this is why he got treated like that. The presumption would have been of innocence amongst the Chow family had it been an Asian child. Oh, he doesn't have the water. But because of their prejudice, this is how they see things. I'm gonna let this gentleman finish speaking.
Money. When you have a great lawyer, when I was in law school, I dropped out, but I remember vividly the professor said, a crime is a crime depending on the type of lawyer you are. With that being said, because Rick Chow could afford a great lawyer, and if you saw that video, he's an amazing lawyer. Because they had a great lawyer, he was found not guilty. From a legality standpoint, from a moral standpoint.
No, he killed the boy. He admitted that he killed him. He was just found not guilty of murder. Murder is a crime. Killings happen. Okay, there's a defense to killing somebody called manslaughter. I'm sorry, there's a defense to killing somebody called self-defense, but he still killed somebody. Okay, we need to be clear about that. Somebody was killed. So he was not found not guilty of killing somebody. He was found not guilty of murder, which is a legal standard. But I'm gonna let this gentleman keep speaking. Clearly he failed out of law school. Clearly you didn't. I'm gonna let him talk, but go ahead. Sorry.
He was 100% in the wrong, but it wasn't Rick Chow himself. In the video, he wasn't micromanaging the experience of the customer. It was the fucking wife that was eyeballing the shit out of that kid to try and make sure. Now, they made quick assumption because he's a black kid that he stole some goddamn water bottles, but the video shows, the camera shows that he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
If he was a white kid, they would have stopped him.
Now I want to point out that the reason that the Chow family said they chased the young man down, chase Cyrus down, is because they said they wanted to take a photograph of him. Somebody type photograph, because I want to make sure you all are listening. Okay, they wanted to type a photograph of him so that they can then print that photograph and put it up on their wall of do not shop or do not serve. Let's think about that. Let's let the intelligent people in the chat room figure out the problem with that particular motive. So you chased him down because you wanted a photograph of him. You chased him down because you wanted to be able to take the image of him and put it up on your wall. I wonder, is there any other way we could have got an image of him and put it up on our wall without chasing him down 130 yards for a photograph? Because see, I don't know if you've been here for the last hour and 40 minutes like I have, but I've seen plenty of surveillance footage. And turns out all of this surveillance footage comes from the cameras which are at that particular store. So instead of, if you really just wanted a photograph of Cyrus Belton, could it be possibly maybe you could have just got, I don't know, a still image from your own internal cameras and then put that up on the wall? Because they were color, right? So again, I don't know if the prosecutor poked holes in that particular argument, but what I will tell you this, my experience with prosecutors is that they are government workers. And on top of that, oftentimes the prosecutors have the financial advantage. The jury will kind of just go along with what the prosecutors say do. And unfortunately, not all the time, okay? But if you have an attorney or a group of attorneys who are actually really good at what they do, they will poke holes in that. And so you never actually get fully tested because you typically have the weight of the government and the state on your side. And so now when they really got pushed and tested, they couldn't come up with these, they couldn't think fast enough to deal with these three lawyers or these four lawyers, one of which was Sean Kent. So, I'm thinking maybe they just thought this is going to be murder. They ran them down. They didn't think through the thing. They probably didn't do their job. Again, I know we don't want to, second guess this because it's probably painful to the family already, but there seems to be some prosecutorial incompetence in this a little bit. Some theories weren't fully investigated, and it seems like the defendant exploited that. But that would be my theory as to that. Now, I'm going to move on. This guy is talking a little too slow. He got to talk faster because I don't have all night. But I'm going to move on to the next person. And I like this gentleman because he spoke honestly and he spoke from the heart. And I'm going to let this man finish. And I appreciate these Asian Americans. I'm assuming they're Asian American. I appreciate them speaking up. A lot of tattoos on the neck, though. I noticed a lot of neck tattoos going on.
Cambodian American, Asian American, the child immigrants and refugees, we do not condone.
Look, he said,
fuck Ricky Chow. As a Cambodian American, Asian American, the child immigrants and refugees, we do not condone his actions. We do not harm children, elderly people, or pregnant women. If a child
this is a okay, so you probably saw some Koreans, we've seen some Japanese. This guy is not considered a northern, I don't think he would be a northern Asian. And I'm gonna talk about this a little bit more. Asians have their own racism. They have their own internal racism going on. Okay, they have their own anti-brown, anti-Asian. Asians have anti-Asian racism. And I'm not talking about colorism. I'm talking about hardcore. They call each other jungle Asians. I mean, they just real racist with the rhetoric. If you look at some of the history of Japan and their colonization, they are literally considered the Yahtzees of the Asian world. Okay, and the other northern Asians are pretty close to them. And so, I'm gonna, they found out this guy was Mr. Chow, and they recognize, I'm just saying they have their own issues. So diverse opinions, diverse experiences, diverse history. And so I can see why this guy who's a Cambodian, who probably has not been treated well by Asians, northern Asians, would feel some of the ways he feels also.
And cannot afford it, we provide it for them.
Yeah. So again, and I appreciate that. And of course, We have some more Asians who are speaking up, and surprised they're really speaking up, and I appreciate that. That's good. We appreciate what they're saying.
In 2023, he shot a 14-year-old black boy, Cyrus Carmack-Belton. He had shot at 2 people prior to this. And I need the Asian American community to understand that you did not fall out of a coconut tree, that the anti-blackness rooted in the Asian American community is the Asian American community upholding white supremacy. AAPI month is over, but we all need a history lesson. Let me go through a couple things. 1, slavery never ended. I will tie everything together, but stay with me. Slavery never ended. It was actually just the modern prison system.
He's referring to the 13th Amendment, which said, basically it says uncompensated labor should be abolished everywhere except for people who are incarcerated for committing crimes. That's the 13th Amendment. And that's how that whole convict leasing program came about. It was basically a compromise with the southern states. Well, we can't put them in on a plantation anymore, except if we find them guilty of a crime. So we'll just create a whole bunch of new black codes. We'll call it Jim Crow. And loitering, in other words, having less than $10 in your pocket when the average person probably doesn't make $10 a year, that's going to be loitering. If you don't have a job, well, don't worry about that. We'll give you one. They just found almost 100 bodies right here. Shout out to Big J. They found almost 100 bodies about 8 miles away from where I live in Sugar Land. And this was an old convict leasing farm where they literally worked these young black boys to death out in the fields doing mass hard labor. Oftentimes back at the turn of the 20th century, a lot of our ancestors would disappear. And we didn't know what happened to them. And come to find out, some of them got arrested by law enforcement and they died working in these work camps. No trial, no due process, no nothing. I want you to think about that. Many of you all, if you talk to some of your grandmothers, they have relatives that just disappear, especially men that just disappear. You don't know what happened to them. Around about, 1890, 1910, that black man just disappeared. Young boys, where was he going? He was just going down to the corner store. He just disappeared, never to be seen again. Worked to death in these labor camps. Arrested for vagrancy. Just think about that. And this is what we've had to deal with. This is in the common history and psyche of the foundation of Black American person. These are conversations that we've had with our relatives. And so when we have Africans and Caribbeans coming over here to the United States, and we say stuff like, when I tell you all that Generation X, which was born in 1965, is the first generation of Black people born fully free. And many of you all are 4 years old, less in your 40s. Think about that. Okay? Let me say that again. For you all who say this happened a long time ago. Generation X is the first generation of Black Americans born fully free in this country. And many of them are still in their 40s. Think about that. Let that sit on you for a minute. That wasn't that long ago. Let's keep listening.
2, U.S. conquest never ended. It's just much easier to do a regime change and control other people's governments. So Korea and the Philippines, I'm talking in broad strokes to make a point. They are glorified U.S. military bases. The U.S. doesn't just hold hard power over these countries. Many Asian countries, they also hold soft power because America exports its culture. The bedrock of U.S. culture is capitalism, white supremacy, and because of modern slavery, anti-blackness. So when we tempt Asian immigrants to come to America that have consumed the American dream, the allure is the proximity to whiteness. But when you get here, at best, you're a cog in the capitalist machine, and at worst, you too are a glorified serf, a subsistence farmer, someone who has to work just to survive. And you realize you were tricked by the system. But instead of pushing against the system, because then you would have to admit that you are fallible, that you can be tricked, you instead lean into the oppressive system and uphold the tenets of white supremacy in the United States. because you think that one day you'll be rewarded by this. So that anti-blackness that you are performing and mirroring mainstream white culture becomes ingrained in you, and you begin to believe it. And then you begin to spread it and pass it down. And then innocent young black children are murdered without repercussion. If you are an Asian American and you harbor anti-blackness within your heart, you're actually upholding your very own oppression. You're holding the knife of white supremacy to your own neck. Model minority myth meant to divide and conquer us. Just think critically, why does mainstream culture sow so much division? And why do you believe it? Why do you eat it up?
Yeah, my thing is, why is Asian culture, why are you even anti-black? I want you to ask me. I want to know, because when I look at, we've never invaded Asia. The black Africans, we didn't do it. But who dropped 2 bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima? Fat man, a little boy. It wasn't us. Okay, who invaded the Philippines? It wasn't us. We didn't do that. Who invaded Vietnam? France. I think Russia tried. I know the United States tried. We didn't do that. I mean, so why is it that you're anti-black? What is it that black people have done to you that calls for you to be anti-black? We haven't unalived your people by the hundreds of thousands of millions. We didn't get you addicted to opium during the opium wars, and like Great Britain did, because they wanted to force you to trade with them. And so they got the population of Chinese people addicted to opium. We didn't do that. And yet you choose to be anti-black. That does not make sense to me. It does not make sense at all. Now, again, we've seen a lot of black people, a lot of Asian people who are very empathetic, and I appreciate them. I certainly do. But unfortunately, there's always one. Somebody type always one in the chat room. There's always one. And unfortunately, this very prominent one has a reputation for saying crazy, inflammatory stuff about black people, racist black people, racist things towards black people. And this guy is one, and I'm gonna let him play. I want you to hear what this gentleman has to say. He says, shout out to Fuqua. I'm gonna let him speak. Okay. And he goes on for about 2 minutes, and basically he said he dares us to boycott. I want you to listen to him now. I want you to listen to what he has to say. There's always one. You heard a whole list of Asian people saying, hey, this is horrible. Child was killed. This guy skips past that and says, you know what? What you gonna do about it? That's what he's saying. Let's let him play.
I love when the black community says, let's boycott Asian businesses. Please do. We'll get rid of the Chinese takeout, the dry cleaners, the laundromats. Let's get rid of the liquor stores as well. Get rid of the Jordans you guys wear, the Nikes you wear, the shower caps, the Hondas, the Hyundais, all your car electricians, the electronics in your house, the Sony, the TV system, your sound system, the microphones that you guys use to rap and speak about awareness for the black culture and hip hop culture. Where do you think that's made? That's made all in Asia. And here's another thing for you guys. You guys want us to leave the neighborhood so bad? Oh, Asian people are not neighborhoods? We're in white neighborhoods. We have our own Chinatown. We have our own Koreatown. You think we really need you guys to benefit off and make money? A lot of us do go to college as well. You're being outworked by immigrants who barely speak English. And you're not embarrassed? Go to the bank, start your own businesses, and deal with your own people. I want to see your own women get on their hands and knees and do pedicures and manicures and deal with nasty ass attitudes, okay? Please, boycott Asian business. I'm all for it.
Well, I need to run that back, or was that enough? There's always one to tell you how they really feel. Now, that 8 or 9 Asian people who said those things, this is the guy you will remember. This loudmouth right here. This gentleman has a track record of saying racist things about black people to black people, and uses the internet to do it. So he basically doubled and triple dared us with some wonton fooey sauce on top to boycott. Basically, he said, you need us too much to boycott. You're too lazy. You don't want to do your own nails, your shower caps, your 8-ball, your 40 ounces. We supply all that. Your Michael Jordan, the Jordan shoes that you wear. Who's still wearing Jordans? I don't know. Maybe somebody is. But you know, this is how they really feel about you, at least according to this guy. And I have to take those other people at face value. I'm assuming that they're empathetic and it's genuine. They recognize they're saying all the right things. But this boycott of all Asian businesses. Now, it's very painful to hear, right? Right? Damn. It's painful to hear, right? But is he wrong? Is he wrong? Is he wrong? How do you all plan to boycott all Asian businesses? How do you all plan to stop black dollars from entering into Asian people's hands? Explain that to me. Now, look, Uncle D is the bad guy. I want you to explain that to me. How do you plan to do that? How do we boycott all Asian businesses? And with that, we're going to go ahead and commence forth with the broadcast. If you learn something, I should earn something. And I promise you this one is going to be blistering hot. So I'm going to roll straight through. I will read all the broadcasts, the super chats when I finish. I'll read the cash apps when I finish. Now, the black community is outraged that Rick Chow shot a 14-year-old black boy and walked out the courtroom not guilty. People are angry, and we want to do something. And I understand that. But let me explain something to you all. And I know I missed the X part. Let me explain something to you all about a blanket boycott of all Asian businesses. It's not going to work. It's too broad, it's too emotional, and it's too unrealistic. All Asian people aren't responsible for Rick Chow. That's like blaming foundational Black Americans for something that the Nigerians and the Ghanaians and the Jamaicans and the Haitians and the Trinidadians are doing over in their country, or even here. Can't blame foundational Black Americans just because we're Black and they're Black. We don't move together. We don't think together. We don't vote together. We don't boycott together. Hell, some of us, we don't even like each other sometimes. So why would you assume all Asian people are one unified group responsible for one Asian store owner in South Carolina? Asians aren't a group. China isn't Vietnam. Japan isn't Malaysia. Korea isn't India. Pakistan isn't the Philippines. And Cambodia isn't Taiwan. Just like Hong Kong isn't Sri Lanka. You got East Asians, Southeast Asians, South Asians, Central Asians, Pacific Islanders, and Middle Eastern people. All of them are different histories, cultures, politics, and racial attitudes. Some of those communities have their own racism and colorism and a caste system and ethnic hierarchies and anti-Blackness. So when Black folks say boycott all Asians, somebody type boycott all Asians, and I hope y'all get mad. Boycott all Asians. The first question is, which Asians are you talking about? Are we boycotting Chinese businessmen? Are we boycotting Korean businesses? Are we boycotting Vietnamese nail shops? Are we going to boycott Indian doctors and them Indian motels? What about the Pakistani gas stations? Y'all going to boycott the Filipino nurses that's taking care of your family members right now and changing their bedpans? You gonna boycott Japanese cars, Honda, Toyota, Suzuki? What about all these Taiwanese electronics? What about Samsung? Well, turn the TV off then. What about Sony? What about LG? What about your iPhone that you're watching me on right now? Or your computer or TV that you're watching me on right now? You need to turn me off. What about all that medical equipment? You know that little machine, your CPAP machine is next to your bed to keep you from snoring at night and dying in your sleep? I'm just asking questions. So the next time your car breaks down, you're going to boycott Asian business. You want to keep black dollars out of Asian hands. That means you can't get spare parts. And just look around at your house, all these electronics sitting around your house right now. You're going to boycott that too? So you're not going to upgrade your iPhone. When that iPhone 28 comes out, you're not going to order. You're going to stop? No more Nissan, nothing. Nothing. I'm not even talking about nails and food. I ain't even talking about that. You're going to stop buying anything that's connected with China, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, India. That's not a plan. That's emotion. Somebody type emotions in the chat room. Let me talk to you all like grown-ups, my people. See, if a specific business disrespects black people, don't spend your money there. That's targeted. That's specific. That makes sense. But a general boycott of all Asian businesses is not strategy. It is pain talking. It burns hot for a week or two. And then people go right back to doing what they were doing. And that's how you become a paper tiger. You all are roaring online. But nobody in power fears you because they know you don't have discipline, structure, targets, leadership, or any follow through. Nobody who understands power believes black people are going to be successful boycotting each and every Asian business in America. That kind of boycott isn't designed to win. It has no clear demand, no end point, no negotiation target, and no measurable goal. Are we demanding that Rick Chow's store never open? All his businesses, you want all them closed? Are we demanding civil liability? Are we demanding stronger store owner use of force laws? Are we demanding black security in black neighborhoods? Are we demanding community accountability agreements for businesses operating in black communities? What is the strategy? Because I can tell you boycotting all Asian businesses isn't a strategy. It's scattered anger. And scattered anger is why black people lose so often. We get mad. You make these angry posts. We yell. We threaten broad boycotts. And then we fail to use the actual tools of power. And see, in this system, you don't win by swinging wildly at everybody who looks like the person who harmed you. You win by identifying the target, finding the leverage point, making a clear demand, and applying pressure until something changes. That means lawsuits. That means licensing complaints. That means public records requests, civil claims, zoning pressure, business license challenges, political pressure, local elections. A black child is dead. And then we are completely justified in being angry. But don't let anger make you stupid. Don't take a real injustice and respond with a plan guaranteed to fail. Because when it fails, the same people who already think black people are emotional and disorganized and ineffective will say, see, they aren't a serious people. It's just another bad idea. You hear me? Another bad idea. See, whenever something happens, you got too many people who get emotional and they get loud and they get reckless. The first bad idea we talked about, you attacking Sean Kent, the black defense attorney who represented, one of the attorneys who represented Rick Chow. You think if Sean Kent is the problem because he did an excellent job defending his client. If you think that, then you're the problem. The man is a lawyer. His client was charged with murder. His job was to defend that client within the law. And from what I saw, he did a stellar job. He forced the prosecutors to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and they couldn't do it. Shout out to William Lynch. That's not betrayal. That's not being a sellout. That's the legal profession. And if your ass was in a sling, excuse my language, you would want somebody like that representing you too. And let me say this now, because I've seen this floating around the internet. If any one of you all, any of you podcasters are stupid enough to threaten this man online or gin up these crazy people on the internet to think that it's a good idea to go threaten this man who just won this case, I hope that law enforcement takes your threat seriously. I hope that the FBI comes to visit you at your home. I hope that you get charged with making terrorist threats. And see, threatening a lawyer isn't activism. It's not being down with the people. It's ignorance. But see, that also exposes a sickness inside of Black America, something that I've talked about on this broadcast. See, too many of us celebrate Black excellence when it's entertainers, or when somebody out there catching balls and dunking basketballs and running up and down somebody's field or making music. But we attack it when it shows up in the courtroom, wearing a suit, or in a boardroom, or using procedure, or using evidence, or winning. We need more Black attorneys like Sean Kent. We need more Black trial lawyers and judges and prosecutors and civil rights lawyers and legislators who understand the machinery of power. You don't fix the system by attacking the Black lawyer who knew how to win inside of the system. You fix it by producing more Black people who know how to use the system. Did I mention that the jury was predominantly Black, or 5 Black people, plus 2 could have been Black people? It was only 5 white folks on there. 7 out of the 12 people were Black. Did I mention that? So before we started, the jury was racist. Most of the people was Black. So that's the one bad idea that I heard. The other bad idea I heard was this, and we've seen this before. Business does something we don't like, looting, vandalizing, burn it down, right? Somebody type burn it down. That's what you want to do with Rick Chow. So apparently he sold it. But either way, that's not justice. That's a gift. If you burn the building down, you hand him an insurance claim for property damage, lost income, business interruption. Meanwhile, the people who did it go to jail, get felonies, arson. They lose their jobs, they lose their freedom, and you give the media footage of Black people looking reckless. Rick Chow has already been found not guilty. Don't help him win again. And the family obviously has filed a civil lawsuit, and it's still pending. Damaging the property won't help the family. It's going to hurt leverage and complicate insurance and create new legal issues to shift the conversation away from the death of Cyrus Belton. And instead of talking about a 14-year-old Black boy being accused and chased and shot in the back, the shooter's walking free, the news will talk about broken glass and burned property and mug shots and police lineups and public safety. That's not a strategy. That's self-sabotage. Now, another bad idea. Pulling up. All y'all that want to pull up and harass the Chow family. following people around, threatening people, or trying to intimidate anybody connected to the case. That's not activism. That's just how you get arrested. That's how you get sued. That's how you get shot. Or that's how all three happen to you. You're helping the other side build the narrative that black outrage is dangerous and out of control. So in other words, you're being useful to your enemies. You're being useful to the people who want to say, see, that black boy was dangerous. He deserved it. You're not helping. And see, that's the part that a lot of black people don't want to hear. A lot of this outrage, and let me just be honest with you, it's just performative. You don't want justice. You want the camera. You want likes. You want shares and interviews and donations and attention. That's what you want. Let's be honest. You want to be the next Al Sharpton. You want to be the next Jesse Jackson. You want to be seen yelling in front of a store. You want to be interviewed by the news. But see, being loud is not the same as being useful. Screaming isn't strategy. Threatening lawyers isn't strategy. Burning buildings isn't strategy. Harassing people isn't strategy. Boycott everybody who looks like the defendant. That's not a strategy either. Strategy means attacking the pressure points. That's how serious people move, not with chaos, with leverage. Now, let me say something to you all, and I want y'all to hear me clearly. All the people in South Carolina. The truth is, I didn't know a damn thing about this case, and most America didn't either. In 2023, we were still trying to recover from the beer virus. We were trying to get back to our jobs. We was trying to figure out how Zoom worked. That's what we were doing. I didn't know about this case. I didn't know about this case until it popped up on my news feed this week. This wasn't in my backyard. This wasn't my local store. This wasn't my county. It wasn't even my state. I live in Texas. But you know who did know about this? For a long time, the people of Columbia, South Carolina knew about it. The people in that community knew. The local activists knew. The local politicians knew. The local law enforcement knew. The local media knew. The black community around that store knew. See, Cyrus Carmack-Belton, that 14-year-old boy, that was yours. That child belonged to your community. I can't focus on everything I got going on in my life in Texas and all the people in California and Nevada, but we can't focus on that. We have our own families to deal with and our own work, and we have our own things to deal with. How are we supposed to handle what's going on in South Carolina? Let me make this plain. Y'all should have been handled this after the first incident involving Rick Chow in 2015. After he shot at that black woman 6 times for allegedly stealing those bag of boiled peanuts and a case of beer. Y'all should have handled that then. And you absolutely, positively should have handled it in 2018 after the second time he shot somebody and sent them to the hospital. This is where you all fail, South Carolina. This is where the community failed. This is where leadership in that community failed. This is where the system failed. You don't think deeply enough. You didn't organize early enough. You didn't attack the right pressure point. Somebody type pressure point in the chat room. You waited until a black child died, a black male child. And now everybody want to scream protest. Now you want to burn things down. Now you want to perform for the camera. It's too late for Cyrus. But you know me, I'm going to give you some remedies. Somebody type remedies, somebody type solutions in the chat room. See, the real remedy should have started years earlier, and I alluded to it earlier in this broadcast. The real remedy was never to burn down a store after the verdict. The real remedy was to take Rick Chow's power before the killing. Somebody type power. And where did he exercise his power? What was the instrumentality that he used to exercise his power? It was the power of his gun. See, before the 2023 shooting, South Carolina still had a concealed weapons permit system. And that matters. Are y'all listening? You're going to learn something. And see, here's the good thing about it. You can use this now. You're going to learn. You can use this now. All this good game I'm giving you can use all this now. Just keep listening. See, this was before South Carolina passed the constitutional carry in 2024. So the 2024 law isn't the issue. The issue is what should have been done under the law that existed at the time. And under that law, a person's concealed weapons permit wasn't some untouchable lifetime privilege, especially an immigrant from China with a bad record. It could have been reviewed. It could have been challenged. It could have been revoked if legal grounds existed. And if a permit holder was charged with an offense that upon conviction would prohibit that person from possessing a firearm, that permit could have been revoked while the case was pending. Do you hear what I'm saying? So let's go back to that 2015 incident. First of all, it was a major warning sign. According to the public reporting, Rick Chow confronted a black woman over 2 cases of beer and some boiled peanuts. After the confrontation moved outside, she got into her vehicle to leave, and he allegedly pulled out a .45 caliber Glock and fired approximately 6 shots at the passenger side window of her vehicle. He didn't know if it was a child in there. He didn't know if it was an elderly person. That shouldn't have been treated like some routine shoplifting call. That should have been treated like a gun license emergency. Shout out to Crystal Watson. That question should have been simple. Why is a licensed concealed carry holder firing a .45 caliber Glock toward a person leaving in a vehicle over store merchandise? Even if the law enforcement believed there was self-defense, that shouldn't have ended the inquiry. Self-defense may explain why someone wasn't charged at a particular moment, but it doesn't answer the larger licensing question. Is this person fit to keep walking around the community with a gun? Is this person using the permit for personal protection, or is he using it as a business enforcement tool? Is he carrying a weapon for lawful self-defense, or is he using that weapon to escalate shoplifting accusations to gunfire? See, that's the line South Carolina officials should have been drawn in 2015. And it was incumbent upon the community to do that. You let this guy walk around with a gun for the past 8 years before this incident, knowing that he shoots at people. Why didn't y'all get his gun license revoked? Okay, I'm going to give you that. Fine. You didn't know. Okay. What about 2018? Where he put somebody in the hospital? Again, the confrontation began with an alleged shoplifting, and this time involving a can of oven cleaner. I don't know what kind of oven cleaner was this. This must have been baking soda plus, my God. But again, Rick Chow confronted the person. Again, the confrontation escalated. Again, he fired his weapon. And this time, this black man was shot twice in the leg. You could bleed to death from getting shot in the leg. Even if the officials believe the incident involved self-defense, because the man allegedly assaulted Rick Chow, that pattern should be impossible to ignore. shoplifting accusations, confrontation by the store owner, and gunfire. Even if he was a security guard, he would have made him unemployable. Nevertheless, by 2018, the black community in that area and the authorities had enough information to see the problem. Rick Chow was not merely a man who happened to own a gun. He was a store owner who repeatedly used a gun in confrontations with people, black people, he accused of stealing low-value store merchandise. That's not an ordinary concealed carry. That's not a responsible gun owner. That's a pattern of armed escalation. And the remedy should have been immediate and targeted. First, the community should have demanded that the Richland County Sheriff's Department refer the 2015 shooting for full prosecutor level review, not merely close it as some store incident. You shooting a gun into you shooting a gun 6 shots with a semi-automatic pistol into a vehicle at a woman in South Carolina, when the majority of people in that community, 2/3 of the people are black. Y'all didn't do nothing about that. Here's what you need to understand. If the charge had been brought, if enough black people got together in South Carolina and Columbia and say, y'all need to charge this man, that alone would have triggered a concealed weapons permit consequences. Do you know that? If you get charged with DV, even if you're not convicted, they're going to say, nah, you can't have your gun. You know that. And see, here's the thing. Once a permit holder is charged with an offense, he's now prohibited from possessing a firearm. You understand? And upon the conviction, it would have been revoked. You see how easy that? Why didn't y'all think of that? I don't understand. Why is nobody thinking that this? Why do we didn't think of that, black people? We so smart. Because we'd rather get out in front of the cameras and perform. This is not exciting. Sending letters and calling, that's not exciting. I know my people. That's not exciting to you. Why didn't Al Sharpton think of that? Jesse Jackson, before he passed, he was still alive back then. Why we didn't think of that? Am I the only one over here with my thinking cap? Because see, I'm boring. I'm a boring, I don't know how I got 100,000 subscribers. I'm very boring. I live a very boring life. You see? But either way, y'all probably, I get it. Maybe you didn't know about that, right? That was 2015. We didn't know about that, right? But see, here's what could have happened. The community should have demanded that the South Carolina concealed weapons permitting organization, whether we talk about the 2015 or the 2018 incident, and they call it SLED, okay? SLED, that's the acronym. Want to know what this man's status is. SLED maintains the status of South Carolina concealed weapons permits right now. Somebody type right now in the chat room. Did y'all see I gave y'all this man's whole first name at the beginning of the broadcast? See, the public may not have been able to pull his permit on file right now. Somebody type right now. Like the regular public document, but the law enforcement could do that. They can verify his permit right now. That means the sheriff department, the solicitor, all these people you all elect and have elected right now, they could have put SLED on notice and asked for an administrative review right now. Somebody type right now in the chat room. All you people in Columbia, South Carolina who are listening right now. And then guess what? That community of American citizens in Columbia, South Carolina, who are descended from slaves, foundational black, you could have demanded written answers, not just a press statement, not just no charges filed. They should have demanded to know whether SLED was notified, whether the permit was reviewed, whether the firearm was seized, whether the solicitor reviewed the case, whether any firearm conditions were imposed, whether the store owner was still authorized to carry after firing those shots in multiple shoplifting related confrontations. You see, this could have been right now back in 2018. And see, here's the thing, the licensing pressure shouldn't have stopped with the gun permit. A convenience store sitting in a black community depends on licenses and permits and inspections and fuel relationships, and because you know Shell runs that right now. Somebody type Shell gas. What about alcohol permits and retail authorizations and local business privileges? That's where black people should have applied lawful pressure. Somebody type pressure point in the chat room. Not violence, not threats, lawful pressure, administrative pressure. If a store owner repeatedly creates armed confrontations with customers or suspected shoplifters, then the community has every right to ask whether the person should continue enjoying public privileges that make the business profitable. This is how you take away the instrumentality. You don't wait until a black child is dead in the street and then argue about the nuances of the murder law on the books. It's been there for hundreds of years. You go after the license that gave him the confidence to act the way he did in the first doggone place. You go after the concealed weapons permit. You go after the business licenses. You go after his alcohol permit. You go after his regulatory approvals. You force every agency that gave him permission to operate in your black community, which is 2/3 black, to answer the question, why did this man still have the legal authority to carry a weapon and operate a store after repeatedly shooting black people? Because see, here's the truth. If Rick Chow had been disarmed through the legal process after 2015 or 2018, the 2023 encounter where he shot this 14-year-old black boy would look a lot different, wouldn't it? If he didn't have that Glock on him, that 45, okay? If he didn't have that 45, he may not have chased Cyrus Carmack down 130 yards from the store. See, he wouldn't have had that confidence that a licensed armed man would have, acting like he was the authority to tell another private citizen what to do. You confront a child about a doggone bottle, a 99-cent bottle of water. See, the gun changed the power dynamic. The license changed the power dynamic. The system allowed him to keep the power after repeated warning. That's the real failure. And see, the point isn't that a concealed carry permit automatically makes someone guilty. The point is that a concealed carry permit isn't supposed to be a license to hunt suspected shoplifters. It's not a business security credential. It's not a badge. It's not a substitute for calling law enforcement. It's not permission to turn every petty theft accusation into an armed confrontation. So the remedy now is clear. The community should demand a complete review of every firearm incident involving Rick Chow before 2023. They should demand that SLED confirm whether his concealed weapons permit was ever reviewed and suspended or revoked or renewed or flagged after the 2015-2018 shooting. They should demand that the Richmond County Sheriff's Department release the incidents reports and supplemental reports and body camera footage and 9/11 camera calls. And they should demand that the solicitor explain why in this 2015 shooting didn't result in his permit being referred or taken away. And they should make Rick Chow an example, not through mob action, not through threats, not through emotion, through lawful, organized, administrative accountability, just like the white folk do us. We're going to challenge your gun license since you don't know how to use it. Ain't that what we do to children who are reckless? We take it from them. Huh? Why didn't y'all think of that? Why do I have to sit over here and think about that? Where are all these intelligent YouTubers at? All these smart people with all these plans, and where y'all at? Why nobody else thought about this? Just take his gun. Ain't that a simple answer? We could have saved this boy's life with a few letters to the proper agency. It's on the internet. South Carolina, why do y'all didn't think about that? We not finished. We got more. Somebody type, we got more in the chat room. Now, another thing. Somebody type pressure point in the chat room. Somebody type pressure point in the chat room. Why is Rick Chow here? Why are all these immigrants here? They're here to make wealth. They're here to accumulate wealth. And one way they do that is with the licenses. And one of the most important licenses that alcohol and beverage license. Somebody type liquor license in the chat room. And see, this is why black folk need to stop thinking emotionally and start thinking like adults who understand leverage. A convenience store like that doesn't make its money just because it has a roof and a cash register and a sign outside. It makes money because the government gives its privileges. Again, they sell fuel, they sell retail goods, and in that store, they sell beer, they sell wine. And in order to do that, it has to have a proper alcohol beverage license or permit. Y'all probably have one of these convenience stores in y'all community, don't you? One of these liquor stores that treat you bad. Do they have a liquor license? Somebody type right now. It's not a natural right. It's not automatic. That's not something the government has to give forever. That's a public privilege. And if you want to hit a business owner where it actually hurts, you don't run around making threats. You don't break windows. You don't burn anything down. You go after their licenses that make the business valuable. And that alcohol license, especially in the black community, because we know we like that brown. Somebody type that brown in the chat room. We like that brown, that hen, that brown and that clear. We do, don't we? And they know we do. Why you think they there? You think they making their money off Doritos and Snicker bars? No. They making their money selling you that brown and that clear and that gas. See, a convenience store that can sell beer and wine is worth more than convenience stores can. That's just business. If the store can sell alcohol, it has more customer traffic and more impulse purchases, more revenue, more resale value. If the alcohol permit becomes contested or suspended or revoked or delayed or impossible to renew, the whole business becomes far less attractive. And if the owner wants to sell the store, the buyer isn't just buying walls and shelves. The buyer wants a functioning, licensed business. If that beer and wine permit is gone or under attack, the sales get harder. The business becomes less clean. The buyer has to worry about whether a new license is going to get approved, whether the location is suitable, and whether the community is going to protest. South Carolina has its own organization that scrutinizes that. They scrutinize those applications. And whether the business has become a political and a legal headache is something that's going to be determined. And that's why the alcohol beverage licensing notice matters. Somebody type right now in the chat room. Because you can look on the South Carolina notice site for all of Rick Chow's businesses, and you can see if he's applied for any other alcohol licenses anywhere in the state of South Carolina, him or his family. I gave y'all their names. The Columbia Star, all my people in Columbia, somebody type the Columbia Star publishes a notice of application for a permit or license for the off-premises sale and consumption of beer and wine. And they will do that for 7441 Parkland Road, Columbia, South Carolina, 29223, which is the place where this young boy was shot at the convenience store address. See? That means if somebody connected to that location applied for a or salt renewal for an alcohol permit through South Carolina's Department of Revenue at some point. And South Carolina's Department of Revenue confirms that alcohol beverage licenses and permits are handled through its ABL system. And those resources include a way to find licensed locations and to suspend or revoke those licenses. And here's the thing. In plain English, that's the permit that lets the convenience store sell beer and wine to customers who leave with it. And this is where the community should have paid attention. Somebody type pay attention. You don't like some of these businesses in your communities, they not treating you well? Well, they need a business license. More importantly, they need an alcohol permit. And when an alcohol permit application notice gets published, that isn't meaningless paperwork. That's the government giving notice to the public, which is you, that someone is asking for permission to sell alcohol in your community. And South Carolina law requires alcohol applicants to publish notice and identify the type of license being applied for and the exact location of the proposed business. And that notice creates an opportunity. It tells the community, here's your chance to object to this mofo. Here's your chance to protest this mofo. Here's your chance to tell the state why this location and this particular applicant or this operation should not be trusted with this privilege. South Carolina regulations recognize that people can protest the issuance of renewal of beer and wine permits and alcohol liquor licenses. So if the Black community around the store knew Rick Chow had these prior shooting incidents with Black people who he alleged was shoplifting, y'all should have treated that like a legal alarm bell. And that goes for all you Black folk who are listening to me right now. You got these people in your community that's not treating you right. You need to challenge their liquor license. Put it on the books. Are y'all listening to me? Because sometimes I don't know if you're listening. I really don't know. I can't tell. It feels like I'm just screaming at the internet for 3 or 4 hours. I don't know if you're listening. Am I giving you some ideas? If I'm giving you some ideas, just type idea in the chat room. And for you all who can't spell, just type ID in the chat room. Are you getting some ideas now? How you can get rid of some of these unwanted businesses? These people who treat you poorly. How about you challenge their business license? How about you challenge their alcohol permit? I'm just asking. Why am I the only one that have to? Why did I have to think this up? I gave this all of maybe 24 hours of thought. Where all these smart people at? You don't want the business there. Why boycott everybody? Just get rid of that one. Teach them a lesson. We don't need all these vague general protests. That's emotional. It's not about we don't like him. The objection should be that this location has a documented history of, back to Rick Chow, a documented history of dangerous firearm incidents involving the owner and operator between him and suspected shoplifters. He don't need to be selling liquor. You understand that? Is this simple? It don't seem that complicated to me. This man shot at a black woman in 2015. He shot a black man in 2018. And now in 2023, he shot a 14-year-old black boy who was chased from the store and shot in the back after he accused him of stealing water. Water is free. See, the issue is not simply alcohol, and this happens all across the world, all across America. You got these businesses in the black community that treat you bad. Challenge their liquor licenses. You don't need a law degree for this. All you need is an email address. The issue is whether the business location has been operated in a way that creates a danger to the community and the surrounding area. The issue is whether the state should keep granting public privileges to a store where low-value retail disputes have repeatedly escalated to gunfire. That's the situation there. That's how you make license agencies confront that pattern. You don't need to protest. You don't need to riot. You just don't want their application to look clean, and they'll go out of business. They'll go away. You make them answer whether a business with that history should continue receiving alcohol privileges. You make them answer whether a convenience store in the black community should be able to profit from beer, wine, whatever, while the same community is saying this store has a history of violent confrontations with our customers. And you make them answer whether licensing is supposed to protect the public or protect the operator. And don't miss the business angle. If Rick Chow or any related entity wants to sell that store, he's already sold that store. But again, licensing becomes a choke point. And a buyer wants certainty. A buyer wants to know the store can sell what it sells now. A buyer wants to know the permit situation is clean. If the community protests the alcohol permit and files records requests and creates a public paper trail and shows up at hearings and makes the location politically retroactive or radioactive, the store becomes harder to sell as profitable, and he might end up having to sell it for less. You attack the profit structure. The whole reason these people come here is to make money and gain wealth. You attack the whole reason that they're here. You done took his gun, so he ain't gonna be running after nobody. He ain't gonna be big and bad no more. And now you done took his money-making scheme away. All with some paperwork, all with the process of law. No, few hearings, little documentation. And again, I'm not telling you to make up facts. You don't need to lie. You don't need to exaggerate. The facts are ugly enough. This is what should have been done. It could be done now. If he has other businesses, make it impossible for the state to treat this store or this owner like a normal applicant. Make it impossible for anybody to pretend they're buying a clean business with no baggage. Make it impossible for the alcohol permit to slide through without scrutiny. Make it impossible for the operator to keep profiting from the community while the community has no say over whether the business remains licensed to operate the same way. You don't have to burn down a store. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to risk your freedom or safety. You can do it right from your home. Get you a nice certified letter. Make sure it got there. They should have been done this a long time ago. The first time Rick Chow got out of pocket with somebody over some cheap ass, excuse my language, that merchandise, and the gun came out, the community should have been all over him like white on rice. Go straight after his alcohol beverage license. A convenience store like that is not valuable just because it has shelves and gas pumps and a gas register. It's valuable because the government gave it the right to sell things like beer and wine and other products. They should have contacted the South Carolina Department of Revenue, and they could have got that man's beer license. He would have been gone. But they didn't. And that's why this little boy is dead. Y'all mad? Y'all mad yet? I hope you're good and mad. This did not have to be a national problem. This could have been resolved a long time ago. But it wasn't. And that's unfortunate. It's highly unfortunate.
Spurling podcast, click your mouse pad, yeah, we out back, hit the like, hit subscribe, don't just hate watch cause we outside, let them hate watch, go and play pop, we just lay back, he don't play that, we on playback, we on playback, we go way back, black men, yeah, we earn something, tune in, gotta learn something, Uncle D podcast, bump it, likes up, hit the sub button, black men, yeah, we earn something, tune in, gotta learn something, Uncle D podcast, bump it, likes up, hit the sub button. This is Dennis Spurling Podcast. Don't just hate watch, hit subscribe and let them know we outside. Don't hold hate, donate, super chat, cash app, put something in the collection plate. Church.
I want y'all to make sure y'all hit the #1 button. And we're going to kind of get back to what we like to do over here, man. I need y'all to check in at a certain point when it's time to check in. I need to check in it, to checking in to start happening again. We got to go ahead and get this algorithm pumping.
Boycott Asian businesses. Please do. We'll get rid of the Chinese takeout, the dry cleaners, the laundromats. Let's get rid of the liquor stores as well. Get rid of the Jordans you guys wear, the Nikes you wear, the shower caps, the Hondas, the Hyundais, all your car electricians, the electronics in your house, the Sony, the TV system, your sound system, the microphones that you guys use to rap and speak about awareness for the black culture and the hip hop culture. Where do you think that's made in? That's made all in Asia. And here's another thing for you guys. You guys want us to leave the neighborhood so bad? Oh, Asian people are not neighborhoods? We're in white neighborhoods. We have our own Chinatown. We have our own Koreatown. You think we really need you guys to benefit off and make money? A lot of us do go to college as well. You're being outworked by immigrants who barely speak English. And you're not embarrassed? Go to the bank, start your own businesses, and deal with your own people. I want to see your own women get on their hands and knees and do pedicures and manicures and deal with nasty ass attitudes, okay? Please, boycott Asian business. I'm all for it.
Well, he let us know how he really feel, right? We saw that earlier. That's been a response from that gentleman. And, you know, of course, black people had a response back to that. I'll let this play for a minute. Fair use.
A video of the man daring the black community to boycott Asian businesses. And he's basically saying, like, y'all can't. Y'all need us. And I saw in the comment section on this video, a lot of people were like, challenge accepted. And I'm kind of hoping deep in my heart, this motivates the black community to get on their grind. Because a lot of people don't seem to think that we have things. Could it be better? Yes, we definitely have to work harder to get a foothold in these marketplaces. But I'm from Detroit, right? I grew up in Detroit. So there are a lot of black-owned gas stations in Detroit. I don't think Davis brothers still own that Shell on Outer Drive. I used to love that gas station because I could take my car there and get service, no problem. But I do know he owns like that tow shop across the street or something. But there are, Express Quick and Lube Auto Repair, Ace Petroleum, the Sicko gas station. We have cleaners, black-owned cleaners, y'all. Most of your grandmas and co-workers are seamstress. That's their side hustles. I've been...
Okay, see, I hear all this. You see, again, instead of respecting the fact that most black people, black women, you got a master's degree in child development and you tell them you're going to open a nail shop. Fellas, you have an engineering degree from some, extremely high tuition having college somewhere, and you tell them you're going to open a chain of gas stations. I'm not saying you can't do it, but realistically, that's not necessarily what black people aspire to do anymore. There was a time when we were the servant class of the United States. There was a time when we cleaned hotel rooms and perform, yard work and did agrarian work, but we don't do that. We aspire, okay? We don't do that anymore. That's not something that we do, okay? So when I hear, shout out to my man Fuquan. So I don't see us changing our trajectory and going back to doing that type of work. I just don't see it happening. So instead of recognizing the fact that these people are integrated into society, into the chain of merchandise and the commerce stream, and that trying to boycott all Asian businesses, which includes Central Asians, East Asians, it's going to be nearly impossible. Instead of just targeting the person, as I was saying, instead of just targeting an individual business and making an example out of it, we want to go through all these links. I don't think that's going to work. Okay. Now, again, I've already told you a couple of things that we should do and a couple of things that we can do moving forward. You got a business owner who's etchy with the gun, get his concealed carry license revoked. You got a business in the community that treats black people bad, challenge their make challenging their alcohol permit top. Now, let me tell you something else. What was the most important fact that you heard about this earlier? Huh? Where is Rick Chow from? Who was here earlier when I said, where is he from? Rick Chow is from China. His wife is from Malaysia. Both of these are naturalized citizens here to the United States. Somebody type pressure point in the chat room. Somebody type call ICE in the chat room. See, the last pressure point, and I know you're not, I don't care. I'm going to say what it is. A little black boy is dead. We can't just sit around and do nothing. And I know you all don't like the fact that, they let a lot of people over here. Shout out to all my Democratic brothers and sisters. This is what you voted for. This is what you voted for. You wanted the Democrats to win. They brought a whole group of people in here that don't even like your black behind. They have their own anti-black racists. They have their own anti-black racists. Somebody type black and brown coalition. Let me hear that. Where's the black and brown coalition at? Huh? Vote your interest next time. But again, the last pressure point is immigration and naturalization. And what do I mean by that? Okay. And before anybody starts lying on what I'm saying, let me be precise. I'm not saying that the government could denaturalize Rick Chow just because he was born in Hong Kong. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? It's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the government can denaturalize his wife just because she was reportedly born in Malaysia. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying citizenship can be taken away automatically because Rick Chow killed Cyrus Belton. That's not how the law works. But what I am saying is this. If you come to the United States, become a naturalized citizen, build wealth in the black community, operate a business in the black community, repeatedly use a gun in confrontations with black people you accuse of stealing, and then a 14-year-old black child ends up dead, then every part of your immigration and naturalization history needs to be re-examined. That's what I'm saying. Not emotionally, legally, thoroughly, aggressively, line by line. And I'm sure that there's somebody in Trump's administration, okay, that would be more than happy to do that if someone would let them know. And I'm sure there's someone out there that would think to let them know. Because see, look, denaturalization isn't about punishment for a later crime by itself. That's not what this is about. It's about whether citizenship was lawfully obtained in the first place. See, under federal law, naturalization can be revoked if it was illegally procured or procured by concealment of a material fact or a willful misrepresentation. See? The law says the revocation applies where a naturalized citizen deliberately misrepresented or failed to disclose a material fact during the naturalization application or examination. When they filled out the documents, did you lie? Huh? Because see, there's a statute on the books that said the United States, you know, our same Donald Trump run United States is trying to get rid of all these immigrants. The United States can bring proceedings to revoke citizenship when naturalization was illegally procured or obtained through concealment of a material fact or willful misrepresentation. So the real question isn't, can ICE take his citizenship back? Just because black people are angry, we're not saying that. We're not saying, we would never say that. Somebody type, we would never. No, the real question is, did Rick Chow and Alice Chow, his wife, or anyone connected to this family obtain their immigration benefits or citizenship by fraud, by concealment, or by aliases, or by false statements, by hidden criminal history, by undisclosed arrest, by undisclosed misconduct, or by sham paperwork, by false residency history, by any material omission that would matter to the government? That's the question. Somebody type, that's the question. And under the Trump administration right now, this matters even more. Because the Department of Justice Civil Division, as of June 11, 2025, almost a year ago, you know what they said? Well, what they did was they sent out something called an enforcement memo. And it said, look, they directed the government lawyers to prioritize and maximally pursue denaturalization proceedings. In other words, yeah, we got some people in here and they have their citizenship, but we want to prioritize seeing if we can get them up out of here. And in cases permitted by law and supported by evidence, that doesn't mean every naturalized citizen is fair game. That's not what I'm saying. I would never say that. Never. Somebody type would never in the chat room. Somebody type would never. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. It means that when there's a legally supported case involving fraud, concealment, serious misconduct, or priority, then it becomes a priority category for the DOJ under Donald Trump. And they're going to be pursuing that hard. Now, I've already described what a material misrepresentation is. Okay? Did they conceal something? Have they supported terrorism? Is this some war crimes? What about some sex offenses or some other serious fraud or some misconduct? Because see, let me tell you something. If Rick Chow's paperwork is dirty, right? then something needs to be investigated. If his paperwork is clean, goes nowhere. But if it's dirty, if there were some aliases, there was some undisclosed criminal conduct, some prior foreign arrests, some immigration violations, some false statements, some concealed material facts, or anything else in that regard, that would have affected his eligibility. And it's hard to get into the United States. It's a long line. And if anything is available like that, that was missed, then the federal government should investigate it and pursue every lawful remedy available. I'm not saying that his wife, Alice Chow, can be denaturalized just because she's his wife. I would never say that. Somebody type, I would never. That's not the law. And we follow the law on this page. Her citizenship rises and falls on her own paperwork, her own statements, her own immigration history, and her own conduct. But if she was an owner, operator, manager, applicant, license holder, or business participant at the store, and if there's any reason to believe she concealed material facts in immigration filings, business filings, license filings, tax filings, or naturalization paperwork, then she should be investigated separately. Not because she's married to Rick Chow. I would never say that. Okay? Because the public privileges come with public accountability. If you're going to operate a business in a vulnerable Black community and profit from that community, then the community has every right to demand that every license, every permit, every immigration benefit, every naturalization file, every business record be reviewed for fraud and concealment. And this is what I mean when I say you take from people what they love. I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about laying hands on anybody. I'm not talking about taking a life. I'm not trying to go Hannah Robbie's code over here. I'm talking about taking something more precious, taking their lifestyle, taking their comfort. Shout out to Understanding 15K. Are y'all learning something? Did you learn something tonight? Let's take that profit. Let's take that license. Let's take the privilege of living in our country. Take the ability to hide behind paperwork. Take the assumption that you can build wealth on the backs of the Black community and then treat Black people like threats. And then just disappear behind citizenship papers and business entities and insurance claims and silence. If he built the lifestyle from that store, then every legal foundation of that lifestyle should be examined. If his status was lawfully obtained, then let the record show it. But if it wasn't, then let the government act. See, Black people in South Carolina paid the price to make that state livable for people like Rick Chow. You know, people of color. South Carolina didn't become a place where Asian immigrants and Caribbean immigrants and African immigrants and Latino immigrants and Middle Easterns and everybody else could come build a business by accident. Black people fought that state, literally. Black people bled in that state. Black people were enslaved and lynched and segregated and beaten and arrested and excluded and terrorized in the state of South Carolina. Black people fought to open schools and public accommodations and jobs and voting booths and courts and neighborhoods. And before those Black sacrifices, many immigrants wouldn't have wanted to step foot in South Carolina. The same system that lynched Black people would have had no problem brutalizing non-white immigrants who stepped out of line. So when somebody comes from somewhere else and benefits from the civil rights struggle Black people paid for, opens a business in the Black community and profits from Black customers, and then a Black child ends up dead, Don't tell me we're not allowed to scrutinize every privilege that made that possible. See, what should have been done is somebody should have called ICE. Somebody should have written a written report to Homeland Security investigations. They should demand the DOJ, the DHS, the UC, IC, and ICE review whether Rick Chow and any related naturalized family members lawfully obtained citizenship and immigration benefits. He can take his butt back to Hong Kong, if not. Now, I want you all to understand something, that ICE accepts tips through its online tip form and tip line. Let me go ahead, for you all who are internet challenged, I'm gonna put this phone number in here, okay? So if you know anybody who you suspect is in this country illegally, I'm absolutely sure that our federal government would want to know, okay? I'm sure of it. The number is 866-347-2423. Okay? That's the number. Y'all make sure y'all give them a call. If you know anybody who's violated the law, okay? Make sure you do that. And moving forward, all these foreigners, all these people up here who are treating black people bad, they don't have a right to do business. They have a right to do business in this state because we fought for that right for these people. So you keep that in mind also. That's why they're here now. Somebody write that number in the chat room, 866-347-2423. 866-347-2423. That's the ICE hotline. Now, don't submit a stupid tip that just says he killed a black child or denaturalized. That's not what I'm telling y'all to do at all. Don't lie. And I'm not just talking about this person. All these people who are out here committing fraud in the United States and are immigrants, they need to be fully investigated. I feel like Biden was asleep at the wheel. That's what I feel. Okay? So some of these people need to be reinvestigated. Obama might have missed a few. You understand? We need to make sure they do their job. And I feel like Donald Trump and his administration, as they are properly motivated to make America great again, I feel they will. And see, this is the difference between revenge and power. Revenge is emotional. Power is procedural. Revenge gets you arrested. Power gets records open. Revenge makes you look unstable. Power makes agencies answer questions. Revenge burns out in a week. Power builds a file. So yes, if you want to make an example of Rick Chow, make an example out of him legally. Challenge the gun history. Challenge the business licensing. Challenge the alcohol permit. Challenge the insurance. Challenge the civil assets. Challenge the immigration and naturalization history. Force every agency that ever gave this man a privilege to do business in the United States and answer why they did that. Because the minute you take an American child's life, especially after a prior violent firearm incident, your whole paper trail should be on the table. For any of you all who are concerned about this man's life being destroyed or the life of his family or his wife, look at the life he already destroyed. Did you hear his mama? Do you hear that little boy's mama talk earlier? Her life is destroyed. All's fair. Well, either way, I'm gonna go ahead and read these super chats. Did any of y'all learn anything? I need to know if y'all learned something. Everybody who learned something, thank you so much for learning. Like I said, you don't owe me anything, but if you learn something, I should earn something. I got a little bit more to say. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure you all subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Take the time to subscribe to the channel. I certainly would appreciate that. And please like and share. Shout out to my man Obijah and also Patricia Hightower. Thank you for the cash apps. I appreciate you all. Big shout out. We got 13 super chats. You're doing a great job, Uncle D. Appreciate you. I appreciate you too. Black Sand donation store is a place where our children can get what they need, safe and legal. Let's keep our children away from them. A tax write-off. Thank you so much, Few Kwan. Appreciate you. I mean, this little boy died over water. Water is free. I mean, water come out the sky for free, and this little child lost his life for that. That's think about it. As long as we fund their hate towards us, they will never let us down. Boycott. It's a shame. We fund our own oppression at trillions a year. Yeah, you know what? It sounds good, brother, but I don't really think that would work. You know, and the reason our voice explained a general boycott that's just not gonna work because it's not feasible. You see what I mean? That's just like saying we're gonna boycott air and water. Eventually, you're gonna need it. But thank you so much, King Musa. Why wasn't the wife charged with disturbing the crime scene by taking the cell phones in his shoes before the police came? She could have planted the gun. Hey, I don't know. Again, I just found out about this today, man. I wasn't following the whole trial. That's a very interesting question. This whole situation is just horrible and seems like it was mismanaged. I'm glad you covered this because I wanted to hear your thoughts from a real attorney's perspective. You're right. There was so many holes in the prosecution, almost like they didn't even try to get proper justice. Yeah, you know, they couldn't go for anything less than manslaughter, anything less than murder, because hell, they wanted to get reelected. They know where they are. They wanted to get reelected. If you charge that man with manslaughter, they're gonna say you're undercharging him. And they charged him with murder. They gave the community what the community wanted, and it didn't work out. They would have been better off charging him with manslaughter. At least he would have gone to jail, but he would have got out. Shout out to Raymond Murphy, 752. I'm 61, born in 64. Shout out to Gen X. Again, we got Few Kwan. Thank you so much for the $10, brother. William Lynch, thank you for the $2. We learning, Uncle D. I appreciate you. Also, Crystal Watkins, I'm learning. I'm glad you're learning. Thank you so much, Crystal. A Big J, this is exactly what I wanted to hear, the perspective from a real attorney instead of listening to internet personalities. Thank you for educating us and giving us real solutions instead of acting out of emotions. Yeah, we went through Trayvon Martin. Before that, Natasha Harlan, something I had to experience as a young man. And I was 17, about 16 to 17 when that situation happened. A young girl, shout out to Anna King Cole. Situation happened in Los Angeles, California, where a Korean store owner shot a little black girl in the back of the head while she was walking out the store. They had an altercation. It was issue arise because of some orange juice. But it also tells you just how these people have very little value for black life. And again, all of this could be resolved if you have a merchant in your community that treats you poorly, get their liquor license revoked. That's why they're there. They're there to get money. Take their ability to make money away. It's real simple. Okay? That's what you have to do. Okay? But thank you so much, Big J. And we got 15 super chats. That's all. Maybe we'll get 20. I don't know. If you didn't learn anything, might just be hard to teach. Not much more I can do, but I'm sure you all will take this and share this information. Shout out to Few Kwan. Thank you for the $10 super stick. Always come through, brother. Appreciate you. Understanding 15K, doing a great job. Thank you so much, family. Also, Few Kwan came back again, man. Thank you so much, Few Kwan DTM. I appreciate you, man. You always come through. Who else we got? Sojourner, True 2825. We thank you, Mr. Dennis. Thank you so much, baby. I appreciate you. And JR, the Real Hill. Thank you, Uncle D. I have family that lives in Columbia, so this threw me off all week. Please keep giving us tips on how we can use the law to fight against dangerous immigrants in our community. Yeah, man, this is a country of laws. It's real easy. You know how easy, I mean, it's real easy. You know what, imagine that you can't sell liquor anymore. If you lose your driver's license, you know how difficult life becomes just from losing your driver's license. Imagine losing your liquor license. Imagine losing your license to your business license. This man can't even go. I mean, they're gone. Now they've lost. Imagine what happens when the word gets out that black people are now attacking people's licenses and liquor licenses. They'll start treating you with respect then. I mean, think about this. White folk drop all kind of nuclear bombs and atomic bombs and stuff on these Asian folk, and they treat them like kings and queens because they know white folk will do something to them. You see? They'll make it hard for them to exist in this country. But see, we don't do that. Shout out to B Hunter. We don't do enough towards making people. We make people a little too comfortable in this country. I want y'all to keep that in mind. We make them a little too comfortable, and they start taking us for granted. People don't treat you well just because you treat them well. You have to make people respect you, and it's not always about making yourself being all big and bad and violent and burning stuff down. That doesn't serve a purpose. Now you just got another burnt out building in the black community. Now we have 17 super chats, and I want to thank everybody. And again, I want to thank you all for patronizing this broadcast. I want to thank you all for helping me get to 100,000 subscribers. It's just been a tremendous journey. It puts me in the top 1% of YouTubers all across the world. Again, I've done this with no viral videos, no frills, no thrills. It's just me speaking to you all with one camera, one microphone. And I just thank you all so much, man. It's humbling. You know, and I promise to use my voice to be an advocate for you all. Okay. And I promise to always speak the truth to you all, even if you don't like it. I'm still going to speak the truth to you. Okay. And, you know, at some point, I hope that you all catch up. You know, I hope that you all appreciate what I say. And I hope that you are able to utilize what I say in your own lives. And, you know, that being the case, I want to go ahead and kind of explain what we're doing here. You know, we make an example out of Rick Chow and people like him. See, people are talking about this boycott all Asian businesses. But a targeted remedy is stronger than some lazy general boycott of every Asian business, which is impossible to do. A general boycott is too broad. That's like somebody hit you in the face and you go hit everybody in the crowd. You see, it makes you feel powerful for a few minutes, right? Shout out to Tobias Judah. You make you feel for a few minutes, but it usually doesn't move anything because it doesn't have a precise target, a legal hook, or a measurable demand, or a pressure point that the system has to answer to. But licenses, gun licenses, alcohol licenses, right? Business licenses, having these people investigated, having their naturalization files investigated. That's how you move quietly and lawfully and effectively. And we're not out there looking like fools. We're not going to give anybody any excuse to call us violent or irrational or racist or unserious. We are resting. Somebody type resting. You can still rest and send out an email or a certified letter, can't you? You can go right out there to that drop box and drop that certified letter in your box and have this whole situation fixed. Rick Chow's situation requires a targeted remedy, not a blanket emotional boycott. The target isn't all Asians. The target is the business operation connected to that Parkland Road address where that station was, that convenience store was. The target is the gun history. The target is the concealed weapons permit history. The target is that they failed to review his incidents. The target is his alcohol and business license. The target is his retail license and his insurance coverage. See? That's where the leverage is. A general boycott announces itself loudly and then usually collapses quietly. Y'all back shopping at Target right now, aren't you? Most of y'all never stop shopping at Target. See? But see, a targeted administrative campaign does the opposite of a general boycott. It moves quietly, it hits harder. And that's how serious people move, quietly, precisely, legally. You don't need 500 people screaming outside of a store. If 5 disciplined people know how to file the right records request and protest the right license and show up at the right hearing and contact the right regulator or notify the right insurance carrier and force the right agency to respond in writing. See, a mob can be cordoned off or arrested or ridiculed or ignored. A paper trail can't be dismissed as easy. A licensing objection has to be processed. It has to be dealt with. Shout out to Melvina McDonald. A subpoena has to be dealt with. A civil lawsuit can uncover documents. An insurance carrier can reevaluate risk. A buyer can get scared off. And a bank can hesitate to give you a loan. You heard what that man said? Just go to the bank and get a loan. You heard the little dude said? See, a licensing agency, they can delay. And that causes real pressure. And that's the part Black people have to understand. You don't need to announce every move. Somebody type quiet wars in the chat. Well, you all know how many people I've had issues with on the internet. As loud and rude as I am, you know people want to say something to me. Why don't they? All my people who've been here for years, why don't they bother me? They try. Somebody type, they tried it in the chat room. What happens when they bother? Let the people in the chat room who've been here, let them know why these people leave me alone. Somebody type quiet wars. Shout out to my man Urban Eagle. Always good to see you here. Yeah, because they got hit. Quiet. I do things real quiet. The newspaper will report something I did to somebody before I will. I fight quiet wars. And that way you don't make yourself look petty. And it's not just because I'm a lawyer, because there's plenty of lawyers out here to catch hand from these people. I do something, but I'm quiet about it. I don't fight the way they expect me to fight them. I fight quietly. You don't have to announce every one of your moves. There's a reason I'm a Hall of Fame attorney. There's a reason I have a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. There's a reason I have 3 handsome, successful young Black men that I'm raising. Quiet. You don't have to perform every strategy on the internet. You don't have to tell the target exactly what you're doing before you do it. A lot of this stuff that we need done as Black people can be handled quietly. You don't need Kim Kardashian and Jay-Z and Tigger or whoever else to get behind you. You don't need that. You need quiet. By the time the public hears about it, the file's already been built. The objections are already filed. The agencies have already been contacted. The business has already been under scrutiny. The lawsuits have already been filed. And that's the difference between being loud and being effective. Loud people want to do it for the camera. Effective people want to do it for the result. Shout out to Black Anthem. You put pressure on an unwanted business owner in your community without giving him an insurance claim, without giving police a reason to arrest you or your people, and without letting the media turn the story into an angry Black mob attacks Asian businesses again. You don't do that. Stop spending money with businesses that disrespect you. That's great. Do that. That's your right. But don't confuse a personal spending voice with a serious strategy. The serious strategy is to take away what made people like Rick Chow powerful in the first place. His gun should have been taken away. The permit, the licenses, the alcohol privilege, the business value, that clean paper trail, which allowed him to sell that business while he was under indictment. This man walked away with the assumption that he can profit from the black community without being held accountable. That's a bad message. And then you got this other guy getting on the internet daring black people to do something about it. And that's why the remedy that I've suggested to you in the past 3.5 hours works better than a broad boycott. It's specific, it's unlawful, it's quiet, it's documented, and it's agency driven. You put that system on him. It hits the business where it actually hurts. Most importantly, it doesn't waste black anger on people who weren't involved. And it aims directly at the man, the store, the paperwork, and the system that let him keep power until Cyrus Carmack-Belton was dead. You need to make an example of Rick Chow the right way. And anybody else like him. Don't make him a victim. Make every business owner watching understand this. If you come to the black community and profit from black customers, treat black people like threats, and use weapons of violence over petty accusation, the community won't just yell at you. We're not just going to pull up. We're going to come for your licenses. Every permit, every privilege, every filing, every renewal, every insurance relationship, every public approval that lets you operate. That's how you make an example. That's how you turn anger into power. Now, black people, I want all my brothers and sisters to come to the front of the room. I want you to come in and listen. The real problem is that black people still haven't learned the lesson that we've been put in this country for more than 400 years to learn. Some of y'all think we were brought over here because we were being punished. Y'all done went real Bible thumper on me. Shout out to Black Anthem USA. Some of y'all think we were brought over here just to be Christians, didn't you? Some of y'all, that's what you think. You were brought here for Christianity, to sing songs and suffer beautifully and forgive everybody and wait on heaven. That's what you think. But I don't believe that. I believe the foundational black Americans were forged here for leadership. We weren't brought here and put through all of this just to become permanent victims. We were brought through the hell of the Middle Passage and slavery and poverty and police abuse and mass incarceration and public betrayal and every other weapon this country could aim at us, because we're supposed to learn power, not just pain. And whether you all like it or not, white people have been the greatest example of world domination over the last 500 years that has ever existed. They did it through blood. They did it through guns. They did it through bombs and ships and steel and iron and money and law and courts and treaties and armies and police and banks and schools and governments. I'm not saying that they were morally right. That's not what I'm saying. White people will tell you that they weren't morally right. What I'm saying is that white people understand power. And this tiny minority of Northern Europeans who call themselves white have organized and managed the people and resources on this planet like no other group in history. And we as foundational Black Americans have shared this country with them for centuries. We've lived next to them, the most powerful people inside the most powerful nation on earth. And somehow, too many of us still don't understand the first rule of power. The system belongs to the people disciplined enough to use it. That's the lesson we keep refusing to learn. White folks use law and structure and paperwork and agencies and licenses and courts and zoning and police and prosecutors, insurance companies and school boards and city councils and legislators. They flood the system with their own people. And complaints and lawsuits and motions and objections and public records requests and hearings and lobbyists and their pressure. And even when white folks are dead wrong, they know how to make the system not punish them. What that tells you, what it tells me is a hard lesson. It's an old lesson. Power decides who gets punished and who gets protected, who gets promoted and who gets destroyed, who gets called a criminal and who gets called a citizen acting out of fear. And that's a hard truth Black people refuse to face. This isn't just about right and wrong. It's about power. This is about who controls the machinery. This is about who understands the rules well enough to bend them, use them, pressure them, and force them to respond. We spent too much time trying to prove our humanity to people who already know we're human. We spent too much time begging for fairness from systems that reward strength. At some point, Black people, we got to stop acting shocked that the world is hard and start becoming harder and smarter and more organized and more strategic. Stop treating America like it's somebody else's house. This is our house. This is our country. I don't care whether you believe your ancestors came over here on slave ships or whether you believe that we were already here. The jewel of America belongs to the people strong enough to take it, be responsible for it, control it, shape it, and hold on to it. The foundational Black Americans have bled for this country. We've built this country. We've fought in its wars. We've created its wealth and power and infrastructure. Hell, its music, its culture, its style, its moral conscience, its freedoms. So why are we still acting like guests? Why are we still waiting to be invited to the reins of power? Take the reins. Use the system. Flood the system with our people. Master the system. Makes the system answer to you. I know some of y'all don't like what I just said. I know you don't. It's not cool, is it? It's not woke. It's not spiritual enough. Some of y'all rather meditate and burn some incense and align your chakras, post a meme and talk about energy, while the people who understand power are filing paperwork and taking everything from you legally. And to you all, I'm going to say, grow up. You need to grow up. I'm telling you now to grow up. I'm telling you to use the tools that exist. Don't make false reports. Don't fabricate anything. But if the facts are there, use them. Use every lawful tool available. Be precise, be relentless. That's what I'm telling you. For every white Karen, there's a Keisha. For every Karen, there's a Keisha with a complaint number and a records request and a hearing date and a paper trail. And that's what some of y'all need to understand. This isn't about running into the street and screaming until the cameras leave. We rested. We ain't doing that. This is about becoming dangerous in the way serious people are dangerous. legally, politically, economically, administratively. Serious people don't just yell. Serious people make agencies choose a side in writing. So stop begging. Stop performing for the camera. Stop confusing emotion with strategy. Stop thinking your black outrage is the same thing as power. And see, here's the problem. Until black people learn that, we're going to keep crying over verdicts that were set in motion years before the trial ever started. See, that young 14-year-old boy, Cyrus Carmack-Belton, he should still be alive. And if people in that community in South Carolina had moved earlier and harder and smarter and more strategically after the first incident where Rick Chow shot up some black people, and if not, absolutely after the second incident where he shot up some black people, Cyrus will be alive. So don't tell me you're serious because you're angry now. Show me you're serious by learning these lessons that I've brought to you tonight. Take the power. Use the system. Make the system work for you. And don't you ever, never again wait until the child is dead before you decide to act. This is Dennis Spurling, Uncle D. God bless you all. I love you. May you all have a blessed and wonderful night, and my condolences to the beautiful people of South Carolina and the Belton family. If there's anything I can do for you, feel free to reach out to me. I thank you all so much, and I humbly appreciate that you've taken the time to listen to me tonight. And I'm out.
Dennis Spurling Podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe.